He began as a father, then an advocate for missing children. Now John Walsh has decided to take on the National Rifle Association, and his opening shots are being heard around the national gun debate. Is the leadership of ISIS anything to actually be feared? And are they about to become the most powerful band of terrorists in the Middle East? And with the president deciding optics are more important than serving the needs of all Americans, the immigration debate powers forward into even more dangerous territory. Join us as we begin the fastest 3 hours of news and question everything for Wednesday, July 9th, 2014. Also this hour, why would a major retailer remove a popular, well-selling, and non-offensive book from its shelves? The subject of my commentary and a question for consumers to ask the retailer and themselves. All this begins after John Bachman brings us another edition of Newsmax Now.
I'm not sure if you caught it last night or not, but whistleblowers ripping the Department of Veterans Affairs apart during that congressional hearing under the lights last night on Capitol Hill. But before the testimony began, Veterans Affairs Committee Chairman Jeff Miller said the agency lost focus of who they were and who they were supposed to be serving.
Instead of being a customer-driven department dedicated to veterans, the focus instead has been on serving the interest of the senior managers in charge.
The chairman and Florida congressman also appearing on America's Forum on Newsmax TV earlier today. He went on to say that those senior managers then bullied anyone who tried to expose them or got in the way of their bonuses. Dr. Catherine Mitchell, who worked at the Phoenix VA, confirms that she was a victim of bullying by her superiors.
They ignored my repeated requests for additional resources for our ER. Unfortunately, the administration's response was to haul me into a meeting within about a week and a half and tell me that the only problem in the ER was my lack of communication skills.
Dr. Mitchell worked at the Phoenix VA for 16 years. She says high-level administrators would destroy anyone's career who got in the way of their business. In a 35-page document, Mitchell says, quote, the VA has become a breeding ground for horizontal violence within the workplace. Also, President Obama on his way to Texas, and while he is meeting with Governor Rick Perry to discuss border problems, the commander-in-chief is not expected to set foot on the border. Meanwhile, many Republicans, like Senator John Cornyn, are urging the president to change his travel plans.
I hope the president will reconsider. He really needs to go there and see this for himself and not just rely on his advisors, because this is a crisis that's ongoing.
Cornyn says he doesn't understand why the president would refuse to carve out just 1 hour from his busy fundraising schedule in Texas for what he and President Obama both call a humanitarian crisis. Even some Democrats now are criticizing the president for failing to show up on the border, saying the optics of the president being there are important to the nation as they continue to figure out how to deal with the ongoing humanitarian crisis. I'm John Bachman. We're back with more news in 30 minutes.
They fear for the lives of their children, and so the moms that we see here are saying that they rather risk the difficulties they will face along the way and what they're going through than know that their family, their child will be killed someday right there in their doorstep. So those are the stories we're hearing, why they're here.
There is rampant disease spreading in the various immigration holding facilities. Militia groups are making for tense times along the border. Border patrols are changing diapers and dishing other duties they were never trained for. We're hearing these stories and so many more that could be true but have not entirely been proven. But one thing we have as fact is the weighing of a humanitarian crisis against the needs and wants of a local population, and a president seemingly more concerned with optics than leadership. Let us dig deeper into the burgeoning immigration nightmare. Welcome to Midpoint. First, the media director for FAIR, the Federal for American Immigration Reform, Ira Melman. Ira, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And the founder and executive director of Border Angels, Enrique Morones. Enrique, thank you as well for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Enrique, I'm going to start with you first of all on this, and let me get to optics, which seems to be the key word we're using these days with regard to President Obama's visit to Texas. The fear by the White House that the optics would simply not be right if he were to visit and be seen at the border and be seen visiting some of these refugee camps. What is your take, first of all, on the optic issue here and the president not going to the border?
president is very familiar with this issue. He's been to San Diego. It's not a new issue. The part that's new is the fact that the numbers of these children has grown so dramatically in the last 3 years, from 5,000 to 25,000 to 50,000 Central American children crossing the border and turning themselves into Border Patrol agents. So it's not a security issue that they're turning themselves in. It's not that they're getting into the country. And this is this has been going on since the beginning of this country. But unlike yesteryear, these children and adults really have no legal way to enter. There's no line for them. And so what they're doing, they're in a very desperate situation in Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala. If they stay, they'll die in many cases. So they're looking for a humanitarian answer to a humanitarian crisis. So let's see if President Obama will deliver. Because sending them back right away is not the solution. Some don't qualify for visas and asylum. I understand that. But many do. And we're here in San Diego. We welcomed the family yesterday. We've already hosted a family. We collected over 20 tons of supplies. We are not Murieta. We welcome the children and the families. And these, when I was there last Tuesday, and you saw all that hate, a lot of it inspired by a tremendous misinformation and these native estate groups. You have a member right there, the Federation of American Immigration Reform. Don't forget, China Fury, a member of FAIR, ended up killing a little girl in Arizona a few years ago.
Okay, but let me get you, if you would, Enrique, if I can interrupt just a moment. If you
come
could answer my question, please. What is your opinion of the president not going to the border and not wanting to be photographed there among the refugees, the individuals that are there?
This is not a photo op opportunity. He's got to take action. He knows what the situation is. And we've been in touch. I've been in touch with the White House. We're working on these issues, so it's not a matter of just taking pictures. When I handed a teddy bear yesterday to a young girl from Guatemala, I didn't take a picture. I just wanted to let her and her mom know that she's loved, that we care about them, that these issues are for grown-ups to settle, and we're working on it on either side of the aisle and working on it too slow. But the kids, they're not at fault. Let's embrace them, let's love them, let's protect them.
Okay, let me interrupt you here, please, because we only have a short amount of time. I want to make sure everybody gets in here. Ira, let me put the question to you then. The president not going to the border simply because of what the White House considers to be the wrong optics. Your take?
Well, absolutely. It's the bad optics for the president. It's a problem that he created. For the past 5.5 years, he's been telling the American public that he's got that border under control, that we don't have to worry about illegal immigration anymore, and that we can move on with amnesty. For him to go down there and be standing in front of this border that's clearly out of control would be precisely the wrong kind of optics as far as the White House is concerned. Yet it is the reality. And the reality is that this is a situation that was created by President Obama's policies. There's been poverty and violence in Central America for a long time. What has changed in recent years is the understanding on the part of people in those countries that if you get to the United States, this administration is going to let you in. We're going to put you through some processing procedure, release you, ask you to come back for a hearing in 6 months or a year. And as long as you don't go out and commit some kind of really serious crime in this country, nobody's ever going to come looking for you. So the president has generated the incentive for people to violate our laws. Look, I mean, we all understand what people in Central America want. They want a better life. But unfortunately, it's going to have to transpire in those countries. We can't just simply empty out those countries and bring everybody here.
Okay, let's move on to something else that's even all a part of this here. The president not going to Texas, not wanting to be there. But now we get a lot of other reports about there are disease. There are some reporters who are saying there is lice crawling down the faces of the children that are there. We hear about tuberculosis. We hear all these reports, and yet we don't seem to get an actual factual report many times. Ira, I'm going to start with you on this and what you have heard and what you know. To many Americans, it seems to be a rampant amount of misinformation. What is the reality here when it comes to what is actually happening with these children?
Well, nobody knows precisely because the administration has slapped a gag order on the immigration personnel that are working directly with these people down along the border and some of these other detention facilities. Look, I mean, I think every person feels compassion for the situation that these kids are in. We need to do the best we can to deal with their immediate situation, but that doesn't mean that we have to allow everybody into the United States because it does, as you point out, risk the spread of communicable diseases. But beyond that, it is long-term cost for the American taxpayer. When these kids show up en masse in a particular town, it becomes everybody's responsibility to provide the health care, the education, all the human services that these people will need. And, you know, quite frankly, we're not doing a very good job providing it to the people who are already here. We need to treat the immediate crisis. We need to determine whether people have a valid reason for entering the United States, and those who do not need to be sent home in an expedited fashion. Otherwise, this is going to continue.
Okay, Enrique, I'm going to throw it to you now with a two-part question here. Please try to be brief if you will. Once again, the facts. You are down there at the border. You are seeing this. What about all these cases that we're hearing about communicable diseases and rampant disease that we're hearing? And also, let me ask you as well to comment on what was just said here a moment ago by Ira, the fact that many Americans feel we have to take care of our people first before we start to allow thousands of new immigrants and refugees into this country. If you will first take the disease issue and then take the second part, please.
Sure. As far as the disease issue, I think that we need to go to the source that has the best information, and definitely FAIR will not be that source. Talk to the Department of Health. Some of these children do have some illnesses that need to be addressed. That's only natural, and we all want them to be addressed. Put them in the hospital. We haven't had any widespread diseases, just like when people first came to this country. That was the same situation. So some of the kids need to go to the hospital, and they have. Right here in San Diego, it happened. The first plane load, 145 children and moms, they're all out now. They've been released, and they're going to their family members here. There's no widespread disease going on. There might be an isolated case or something, but those are scare tactics. Those are scare tactics, the criminal disease, etc. And as far as everybody wanting to come here, that's not true. There's 250 million undocumented people in the world today. We have 11.5 million.
Okay, but let's deal with the 50,000, the 30 to 50,000 that we have right here, right now. Let's not deal with the others. The amount of people that we have trying to cross the border right now illegally, according to United States rules and regulations here, and people who are Americans here saying that we cannot feed our own, we cannot take care of our own, our communities are stretched fiscally at this point. What is being done about that, and is that not also a crisis?
Well, we got to remember that before we were us, we were them. And the overwhelming majority of the country does support a humane immigration policies, humane treatment of these children. What we saw in Marietta, what we hear from FAIR, that represents a very small segment of society. There are concerns, but we're the most powerful economy on the face of the earth, and these undocumented people contribute greatly. They give much more back to the country economically, spiritually, with their values. That's what made this a great country, that pioneering spirit from all over the world. And that hasn't changed. So let's address the issue at the source in Central America, helping those countries become more stable, economically secure, and so forth. And let's have a more presence there so that the person can go to the embassy there and say, hey, if I don't go north, my child is going to be killed. Well, let them apply for the visa in Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador and not take that very dangerous 1,000-mile journey north.
Okay, I have about a minute and a half. I have about a minute and a half here. Ira, let me ask you now, this contribute greatly. Isn't it more proper to say that, yes, refugees, immigrants, people do come to this country and contribute greatly, but it has to be done in an orderly fashion?
Well, it's not clear that they contribute greatly. You know, for the most part, we're talking about people with very poor education, very poor job skills. They are going to be heavily dependent on government services for a long time. And the solution is to try to find, for the United States to try to help those countries bring about the political and economic reforms that are necessary so that people can have meaningful lives there. We can't all come to the United States. And simply handing out visas, you know, it's sort of like saying we're going to solve the problem of speeding on the highway by raising the speed limit to 200 miles an hour. You're still going to have to deal with the dangers of people driving at excessive speeds. The danger of just giving everybody visas is that it's still going to have the same impact on the receiving communities. The American public, which is the middle class, which is already struggling, is going to be decimated if we were to follow Enrique's plan.
Okay, let me stop you there. 10 seconds, final thought, Enrique, please.
Just remember that there's no line for these people to get into. We need humane policies. This is a great country. Let's step back and do the right thing. Treat these children with kindness and respect, and let's pass humane immigration policies on both sides of the aisle.
Final thought, 10 seconds, Ira.
Yes, treat people with humanely and with respect, but also recognize that the reason we have immigration laws is to protect the interests of the American people. That's why they're there.
Gentlemen, you are both very, very powerful in your arguments. Let's do this again. Ira Melman, Enrique Morones, we thank you both for your time here, and I promise we will be back and take this debate one more time. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Gracias.
Both of these issues and both of these sides we will continue to follow every day. Coming up next, smack dab in the middle of the battle for gun control is a guy named John Walsh. We'll talk about that and a lot more when Midpoint continues.
you own mutual funds? You may be paying fees and costs of up to 5% and not even know it. Fisher Investments isn't a mutual fund, and we don't have hidden fees. Do you own an annuity? Your broker may have made a commission of 8% or more when he sold it to you. Are you sure he had your best interests in mind? At Fisher Investments, we're not brokers, and we don't earn commissions on trades or by selling you products. With our model, as your portfolio grows, we grow.
To learn more about the Fisher Investments difference, call the number on your screen now. We'll send you our free DVD, Investing Secrets for 2014, and our special report, The 8 Biggest Mistakes Investors Make. Plus, the first 100 callers get a free 1-year subscription to Fisher Investments Stock Market Outlook with insights from our company founder and respected market forecaster, Ken Fisher. Be prepared in 2014. Call now 1-800-575-0066. 1-800-575-0066.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Call our toll-free number or visit our website. A free idea kit and DVD will be sent to your home so you can discover all the benefits of owning your own pool. Compared to traditional pools, endless pools are simple to install, easy to maintain, and economical to run. Our precision-engineered pools enable you to swim or exercise against a smooth current that adjusts to any speed and ability. Endless pools are perfect for year-round health and fitness, relaxation, and family fun. Our free idea kit and DVD will show you how easy it is for the whole family to enjoy a pool right in your backyard or home. An endless pool or an endless pool swim spa can become a showplace for your home. Call our toll-free number or visit the website to find out more about endless pools. The free idea kit will show you just how easy it is to be able to swim at home.
Now on Newsmax TV, Rand Paul wants to be your next president. But what do the polls really show? Will the GOP trust a libertarian? Watch the Malsberg Show now and find out. Go now to Newsmax TV.
You and I talked about Columbine. A girl, one of the boys gets a MAC-10 pistol the day before, just pays cash for it and all the bullets for it. And these two boys go to a gun show. They're not old enough. They're dressed in their trench coats. And they take a little groupie friend of theirs, a girl, who says, let's buy this, let's buy this, let's buy the ammo. No one ever asks them. They go, are you 18? It's against the law in Colorado to own a gun if you're under 18, to buy a gun. And she goes, I'm the one. Here's my driver's license. No background checks. Nobody asks them, what are you going to do for that? And next day they shoot 39 people.
John Walsh began his adult life as just a father, but when his young son was kidnapped, tortured, and brutally murdered by a drifter, he devoted his life to the hunting and capturing of criminals. Now he has taken on the National Rifle Association as host of a new cable series called The Hunt, and has made gun control a frontline issue in the show. That means taking on the National Rifle Association and their power to make or break gun laws in this country. Does this touch on anything new, and will it make any real difference? Welcome into Midpoint. From the pro-gun side, he is the chief instructor of the South Florida Gun School and a member of the NRA, Bob Harvey. And we welcome back one of the very few people on the anti-gun side willing to be part of such debates. The executive director of Women Against Gun Violence, Margot Bennett, joins us. Margot, thank you once again for being with us. Bob, thank you so much for being here.
It's nice to have me.
Bob, I'm going to start with you, seeing as you're here in the studio. Bob, John Walsh's big point is that America, lawmakers, are afraid of the NRA, and the NRA simply has them in their pocket and won't let them loose. How would you answer that?
I think that's a bit strong. First, I'd like to say that I have a lot of respect for John Walsh. What happened in his life is a tragedy that no father, as a father, my heart goes out to him and to his family. But most people don't realize that John's son was not even killed with a gun. He was killed by a mentally ill criminal. The work that John's done is incredible. Over a 25-year career, they've captured 1,202 criminals. They have found 60 children that were kidnapped. His work's incredible, but he's on the wrong side of this issue.
Why?
Well, first off, John will tell you he's a gun owner himself.
Yes.
And that amazes me, because one of the things that he hits on is the fact that he's a gun owner. He respects guns, but 90% of the American population wants stronger background checks. He really doesn't understand the Constitution if that's the case, because we're not a democracy. If that were the case, the people that would want to step up for gun control, if 90% of the people in the United States wanted to vote them not to do that, they'd lose their First Amendment right.
Wait, but you're saying America is not a democracy?
It is a constitutional republic. There is a difference.
Okay. And the difference in your mind is?
Individual rights count.
Okay. Margot, I'm going to turn to you right now, because part of this comes down to what John Walsh says is a reticence by Congress and by people in power to take on the NRA simply because they fear the NRA. In your opinion, is he correct? And why then do they fear this organization so much and are not willing to take action?
I think he's correct. But I also want to correct the fact that we are not an anti-gun organization. But we are a gun safety organization. The radicalized NRA members, and I mention radicalized because there are a majority of NRA members that are not radicalized, that are reasonable, that do want background checks, that do want gun safety legislation. But it's the radicalized NRA members and leadership that are holding Congress hostage. I think, though, that there will be a shift coming soon. I think that the public is starting to apply the pressure needed.
All right, now the homicide rate, handgun-involved incidents, increased very sharply in the late 1980s, early 1990s, before falling to a low in 2008. Is that not fair to say then, Margot, that something is being done? There are those saying that nothing is being done. It is a running rampant through gun control, but there is at least some action being taken that is positive, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And here in California, we have great gun safety legislation. The problem is that we need national gun safety legislation because, of course, you know, most of the states are not surrounded by moats. And the poor legislation in some states affects, you know, the other states that are trying very hard to protect their populations.
Margot, I have a question for you. Women Against Gun Violence. You claim that you are for gun safety.
Absolutely.
How many classes has your organization taught in firearms safety in the last year?
Well, I think we probably think about gun safety in a different way. You're referring to it by saying that teaching people how to use guns, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking that what you're suggesting is that teaching people how to use guns is a gun safety issue.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, wait.
But what I'd like to tell you what we consider, and we've already reached out to almost just in the last 6 months, have reached the families of over 12,000 elementary school children here in Los Angeles County through our TALK program. I mean, so what we're encouraging as gun safety is discussion about guns. Be sure you talk with your children about guns.
Okay, so wait a minute. Hang on one sec, Margot. Wouldn't you agree with that, Bob? That makes common sense.
You know, I always laugh when people start talking to me about common sense gun control. There's a lot of different issues. And Margot, trust me, you know, I applaud you for reaching out to those 12,000. But those right-wing NRA, I actually forgot the term that you used.
I used radicalized.
Radicalized instructors for the NRA and the National Rifle Association reached out to firearms safety to over 400,000 people in basic firearms safety classes. You got a long way to go to take and touch that. Let me cover another thing for you.
Briefly, please. Briefly, please.
You're into schools talking to them about new gun laws. We have enough gun laws. Gun laws are not the issue. Until we fix the mental issue, the mental health care issue in this country, we're going to have violent crimes, and guns on their own are not violent.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there for a sec. Margot, I got a couple of minutes left here. There are enough gun laws in the country. Agree or disagree?
I disagree, because some jurisdictions do not have any gun laws or enough gun laws. And maybe some jurisdictions may have too many, but overall, we don't have effective laws.
What would you like to see as an effective law then? Again, briefly, please.
I'd like to see universal background checks, and I would like to see more legislation on prohibiting high-capacity magazines.
Okay, two things there. First of all, what's wrong with universal background checks?
We already have background checks.
Universal background checks, though.
Universal background checks gives a foreign country the ability to step on our Constitution. That's never going to fly in this country. We can go on and on and on that.
What about the magazine issue?
Magazine issues mean nothing. Someone that knows how to shoot can swap a magazine as fast as they can fire a 30-round magazine.
And so
when they passed a high-cap magazine ban the last time, it did 0 for violent crime.
Answer out, Margot. You had a response?
Yeah, first of all, that's not true. It did make a difference.
It meant nothing.
But if it's true that you can swap out a lower capacity magazine as quickly as firing maybe the 15 bullets in a high capacity magazine, then do us a favor and throw us that bone and limit it to 10.
What would be wrong with that, Bob?
The problem
have the capacity to do it.
The problem with that is I just now gave you an example of another law that does absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. It did nothing in the past. It'll do nothing this time. Until we start spending the money on mental health care, you're not going to fix the problem. You have the strongest gun laws in the country in Chicago, and over the 4th of July weekend, you had 14 shot and killed and in excess of 82 shot total.
Okay, I'm going to have to stop you there 1 sec. Margot, I have just a few seconds left, 10 seconds left, and your final answer here, or your final comment?
My final comment is that really I encourage all of the reasonable Americans to come together and really come up with both legislative and community solutions.
Okay, 10 seconds.
We have a great firearms law here passed on Florida Statute 790 that our gun ownership has increased and violent crimes have decreased since 1987 when that law was passed.
We'll have to hold it there. Bob Harvey, Margot Bennett, thank you so much for joining us. A wonderful debate, which we're going to continue, and we'll return right here on Midpoint on the Newsmax TV network.
I've always seen No-No on TV, and I always wondered if it worked. And it's definitely, I can see what everybody talks about now.
It's not a razor. It's not a laser. It's No-No from Radiancy, the #1 hair removal system in the world.
It's absolutely no pain. Can't believe the difference, Al. It's almost hair-free.
No-No gives you no hair with no pain.
Well, I saw it on TV and they said it was painless, right? I didn't really believe it, but now that I'm trying it, it feels completely painless.
And now, No-No is better than ever. Introducing the new No-No Pro. It's up to 35% more powerful. Imagine never having to shave again.
I like a close shave. Absolutely. And this is better than that. I mean, it's gone.
No more facial hair. No more embarrassment.
I've always been self-conscious of my hairline, so putting my hair back, this will be perfect for me.
And for that man in your life, there's No-No for him too.
It looks like just like you've got a fresh wax, but like you don't have to go through all the pain.
Call now and we'll send you the cordless No-No Pro in your choice of colors. Featuring an LCD display, it comes with up to 5 treatment levels. Plus, we'll include everything you need to get rid of your unwanted hair. A set of Thermicon tips, specially designed for your face and body. A buffer pad to exfoliate and polish your skin. Plus, act now and we'll send you the No-No travel case as a free gift. And get this, you can try No-No risk-free for not 30 days, but 60 days with our triple guarantee. If you are not 100% satisfied, return it and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping, and even pay the return postage. Try No risk-free today.
I need to get myself one of these right now.
Absolutely.
For your 60-day trial, go to nonopro.com or call 1-800-934-5335. That's 1-800-934-5335.
US Med has great news for anyone living with diabetes.
If you have Medicare, private insurance, or prescription drug coverage, US Med will ship a new glucose meter right to your home.
And shipping is free.
My new meter uses only a speck of blood, so it's less painful than my previous meter.
If you have Medicare, private insurance, or prescription drug coverage, you're covered with US Med. We're welcoming new patients, even if your current provider can't supply you anymore.
I don't even have to test on my fingers anymore. I can test on my hand or forearms, and it's more accurate than my old meter.
So call US Med today, and you'll have a choice of 2 great meters.
One that actually speaks your results, or a meter so small it fits in the bottle of strips.
Act now, and US Med will include a free prescription discount card. We'll also send you a free diabetes cookbook. This is your opportunity.
So call US Med today.
You'll be glad you did.
Hello, I'm John Bachman. Welcome to this Newsmax Now update. Later today, President Obama is expected to hold a border crisis meeting with religious and political leaders in Texas. Rick Perry, as you may know, has been invited and will attend the meeting. Yesterday, the Obama administration unveiled a supersized request of $3.7 billion to combat the crisis at the U.S.-Mexican border. And earlier today, Republican Senator Ron Johnson joined J.D. Hayworth on America's Forum and said he will not support that appropriations bill.
As long as we continue to accept people, as long as we don't send the signal that this is unacceptable, that you're not going to be able to stay, more people are going to come. We're a nation of immigrants. I want to solve this problem, but that's how you solve it, is eliminate or dramatically reduce those incentives for illegal immigration.
Well, the Wisconsin senator said throwing this inflated amount of money at the immigration problem and not deporting illegals will only add to the crisis. He says it would be cheaper to put them up in a really nice hotel for a night, buy them a good meal, and then send them back home. And it's not a pretty picture. Take a look at what people are dealing with along the banks of the Mississippi River. The flooding started 2 weeks ago due to heavy rains. Now the river is overflowing from central Iowa down to near St. Louis. The U.S. Weather Service expects the river to reach 2 to 3 feet levels above flood stage categories, and then cresting sometime this weekend in St. Louis. I'm John Bachman. We're back with more news in 30 minutes.
Well, the front cover of this month's Newsmax magazine brings back a seminal time in American politics, the rise and fall of one Richard Milhous Nixon, and forces us to reconsider the man who left Washington in shame, but perhaps should be looked at with more understanding in light of what he truly accomplished. There's always 2 sides to a political story. Welcome to Midpoint, the president and CEO of Shirley & Bannister Public Affairs, and the author of this cover piece, Craig Shirley, joins us today. Craig, thanks so much for being with us.
You bet, Ed. Thank you.
Craig, what is the one thing that we as Americans in 2014, remembering now that many people simply aren't aware of what happened with Richard Nixon, what is the one thing that we need to take away that is the single most important thing other than the fact he left in shame?
Well, I think that he obviously was, in his 5 years in Washington, he was very much beleaguered. You had coming at the at the tail end of the 60s, and the 60s have been pretty much of a mess for the United States between the assassinations of President Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King and Vietnam, and with our reduced prestige in the world, and LBJ leaving the White House ignominiously, is that he came at a very very troubled time. And of course there was unrest on the campuses, and he came in and had no political allies in Congress. He was the first president since Zachary Taylor to come into office, into the presidency, and not have at least one branch of Congress that was controlled by his own party. So it very much was a bunker mentality that took over. I do think he doesn't get enough credit for the success of his Vietnamization policy. When he took office, there were 500,000 troops American troops in Southeast Asia, and when he left, it was down to 25,000, and his policy of Vietnamization, of handing over control authority to Saigon and the South Vietnamese government, was working until the Democratic Congress pulled the plug on it in 1975.
I had a friend of mine who lived through the Nixon administration and said to me, Nixon was just another politician. That's all he was. My response was, but wait a minute, he had to resign from office, he was caught cheating, and he said, wait a minute, Ed, stop. He was just another politician caught up in the late 60s and the early 70s. It seems as if we're soft pedaling it right here, but is that a fair way to put it?
I think that there was something extraordinarily durable about Richard Nixon, and I guess that's why we find him compelling even all these years later after he resigned the presidency and of course died 20 years ago in 1994. Is that he was a strangely compelling figure, and I guess it's because maybe so many people saw some of themselves in him. Is that he was a risk taker. He didn't mind walking along the precipice. He didn't mind. He didn't mind courting failure because he knew that on the other side he believed was spectacular success. And don't forget, he had run for national office 5 times, 1952, 1956, 1960, 68, and 72. So many people had already made a psychic investment in him 5 times. And so there were a lot of people who, including my own father, who, though he was disappointed with Nixon, still felt a personal bond to him.
I would say that to this day there are still a lot of people who do feel a bond to Richard Nixon and what he brought to the country. An absolutely amazing article. It really opens up a lot of doors. Craig, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for sharing the memories and also the news and the information.
Thank you very much.
All right, reminder once again that Craig Shirley wrote the article. It is the cover of this month's Newsmax magazine, and fair to say there are a lot of people who still don't know a lot of the stories about Richard Nixon, and this will be a good chance for you to get to know. Also visit Newsmax.com for more. Now an American moment that reveals more of the time Richard Nixon was in charge of America.
On October 6, 1973, while the nation of Israel observed Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year for Jews, the combined military forces of Egypt and Syria launched a simultaneous and surprise attack on Israel's southern and northern borders. Within days, the Israeli army found itself in retreat, losing a third of its equipment and outnumbered by the enemy 3-1.
He could not believe. He said, we cannot stop them.
Recognizing their very existence was at stake, President Nixon moved quickly to resupply our ally Israel and their besieged army. With an around-the-clock airlift of U.S. military support, the tide of battle shifted, and soon the Israeli armies were advancing into both Syria and Egypt, with Israeli General Ariel Sharon's tanks threatening Egypt's Third Army with annihilation. The Soviet Union, who were supporting the Arab armies, quickly called upon President Nixon to stop the Israelis' advance or risk a larger war. The president intervened, saved the Egyptian army, and then used the opportunity to convince Egypt's President Anwar Sadat to seek a peaceful solution to a conflict that had plagued the region for decades. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh, yes. And that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
If you want to shed the fat and sculpt your body to get that slim, sexy look of your dreams, then you need to stop working out.
Say what?
And start rocking out with Rockin' Body, the fun new body makeover system that was created by fitness expert and Insanity creator Shaun T.
Rockin' Body combines dance and fitness in a fun new way so you can achieve insane weight loss.
I lost 30 pounds dancing.
Now you can tone and tighten your abs, shrink and shape your hips and thighs, and lift and firm your booty, all while you're just dancing.
I've lost 33 pounds. I feel sexy.
And now, for a limited time, the complete $80 Rockin' Body system is 75% off. That's right, Rockin' Body is only $19.95. We'll even upgrade you to express shipping free. Get the complete Rockin' Body system for only $19.95.
Call 1-800-718-8807 or order online at rockinbody.com. 1-800-718-8807. Call now.
My name is Ed Berliner. I'm a host and a news anchor here at Newsmax. This country is desperate for a new voice to speak to that new generation that wants to know it all. Don't give me just half the story. Don't give me a piece of it. Let me get it all. Every single day, when people come to Newsmax, they're going to get an entire story. A new voice, a new generation. Newsmax TV.
The extremist group controlling parts of Iraq and Syria has taken rapid steps to turn their self-declared Islamic Caliphate into a bona fide state. According to reports, the militant group, best known as ISIS, is ready to begin issuing official passports to citizens in Mosul, Iraq's second largest city. As well as making a broad religious call to arms, ISIS is also allegedly recruiting judges, doctors, engineers, and those who have military and managerial skills.
What is happening in the Middle East with regard to the terrorist group ISIS and their trampling of an Iraqi police and military force is perhaps now overshadowed by what the organization is doing with regard to religious shrines. Call them what you will, but ISIS is taking bold, dramatic moves in their drive to bring a nation to its knees and seeking to draw America even deeper into the conflict. Let's welcome to Midpoint the co-director and senior fellow for the Transnational Threats Project at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Thomas Sanderson, joins us today. Thomas, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I wanted to get right to what is not exactly breaking news, but it is new because we have video that is brought to us from the Daily Mail. And this is allegedly, we are seeing members of ISIS taking sledgehammers to the Mosul tomb of the prophet Jordan. And this at the same time while more than 50 blindfolded bodies are found massacred south of Baghdad. We're seeing that video now. Is this not what is a dangerous fracturing of the country? Because certainly in Iraq, everything is so built around religious beliefs that this in itself will certainly speak negatively and fire up an awful lot of people in that country.
Without a doubt, Iraq is home to some of the holiest places in Shia Islam, just as Saudi Arabia is to Sunni Islam. And what we've seen from a group like ISIS is this destruction of religious figures associated with Shiism. This is to be expected from this group, and it certainly will incite and inflame what is already an inferno between Sunnis and Shias and can go well beyond that.
Do we have to now really start saying that ISIS, in many ways, is tactically brilliant? Because what they went through to get to this stage, to be on the doorstep of Baghdad, now knowing the religious beliefs of this country and to do something like this, they know exactly where they're getting at. This is a smart, and I'm not trying to be, not trying to paint them here, but this is a smart group of people. This isn't just a bunch of guys who came in out of the desert.
No, and they've learned lessons from past mistakes when they were previously Al-Qaeda in Iraq and then the Islamic State of Iraq and then ISIS and now the Islamic State. They made big mistakes when they governed Western Iraq several years ago. They've learned a lot from their activities and occupation of parts of Syria. They know which strings and which chains to pull among Shiites and Persians and others in the region, and they will continue to do this. However, they do need to be careful that they do not overstep and draw the Iranians in a comprehensive way, because that could spell the end for them.
All right, now you mentioned the Iranians, but let's keep that at bay here for a second. But let's talk about these sectarian killings, because with these 50 bodies dumped outside of Baghdad, again, is this not brilliant? Because they are turning the portions of the country that they want to take over against each other. So aren't they really smart in allowing others to fight battles for them in many ways?
Well, it's always been an effective plan to get others to fight one another and advance your own interests. What I understand is some of these people they killed were allied with ISIS at one point, and I think that they recognize ISIS right away, where the fissures might be in their alliance with the Sunni tribes and the former Ba'athist regime officers from Saddam Hussein's army. As soon as they see any problem, I think they're going to, as we've seen with these killings, get rid of those individuals so as to consolidate and strengthen their forces before taking that next step. That next step could be Jordan, could be Saudi Arabia, could be Baghdad or other places.
Okay, let me hit right on that there. What are these other countries doing right now in order to prepare themselves for what many believe is an eventuality that ISIS will come en masse to their nation?
Yeah. Well, one thing they're doing is making sure that the United States is taking this seriously, which we are, but also that we are doing the things and exerting the kind of leverage we can to take steps forward, one of which is to ensure that Prime Minister Maliki becomes more open and engaging with other parts of the country politically, with the Sunnis and the Kurds, but also to ensure that U.S. forces are training other local forces, providing technical capabilities, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and making sure that we are primed for any large-scale attack by ISIS either into Jordan or into Baghdad. Those would be two of the very likely advances we would see next from ISIS.
Tom, don't you believe, though, that at this point ISIS sees Maliki as being completely useless?
Useless, but also useful, because they can continue to point to the alienation that Maliki has carried out over the past couple of years and sidelining Sunnis. But yes, in many ways, he is useless. He's in his corner. However, if he is able to rally the Iraqi army as well as Shiite militias with the help of Iran to take back some of the land that ISIS has controlled, then it's dangerous. But Maliki is a useful tool for them.
Are we getting to the point right now where we have to start looking at the leader of ISIS, al-Baghdadi, and he has, of course, now made himself public. He's put his public face out there. That's an arrogance. That is also pride. But is that not also al-Baghdadi saying, you cannot touch me, bring the Americans on, because it is simply such a wonderful tactic in order to draw the Americans in, which is exactly what they want? And is that not exactly what we have to be careful, the trap not to fall into?
Oh, absolutely. For us to recommit troops to Iraq would be a tremendous development, and I really have difficulty seeing it happen. But his appearance shows confidence. It lends legitimacy to what they've done from their point of view. He's established this emirate. It contrasts very well, powerfully, with the bunkered siege mentality that al-Qaeda senior leadership, Zawahiri, has in Pakistan. It also flouts our efforts to get him. There's the $10 million bounty on his head. And so this was quite a dramatic step for him. It boosts morale, it boosts funding, it boosts recruitment. This was a very smart thing for him to do. Though you don't see him walking around and shaking hands with people in the streets. He knows he's a major target.
I have about 15 seconds left. Do you believe, and again, this is your opinion, that America is actually creating a plan right now, or still, as far as the administration is concerned, they're still trying to figure out what to do?
Well, I think we're still trying to figure out how to get the players in the region to do what they need to do. But number two, I do think we have a range of contingency plans, both for an assault on the embassy in Baghdad, for an all-out assault on Baghdad, for incursions into Jordan of a large scale. I think we do have plans in place. I don't think we want to execute all of them.
All right. Thomas Sanderson, thank you so much for joining us, Tom. We'll do it again.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up next, what is a major national retail chain so afraid of when it comes to a popular author and his latest book? That's the subject of Telling It Like It Is. Every day here on the Newsmax TV network and here on Midpoint, we question everything.
Are you having problems with the IRS? Liens and levies, garnishments, seizures, penalties? Are you being audited? Our trained professionals at Wallen Associates can help. We've helped thousands of individuals and businesses solve their tax problems and save big money.
Having tax issues, it's very scary. I was worried that we would lose our house. When I called Wallen Associates, they were able to meet with me in person, and I never had to talk to the IRS again. It was like this heavy weight was just lifted.
Put a wall between you and the IRS. Wallen Associates has over 30 years of experience dealing with the IRS, and they can help you or your business.
Well, I opened the letter from the IRS, and man, I was shocked. So that's when I decided to call Wallen Associates. They got my levy released within 48 hours.
Call us now for a free consultation. We'll meet with you in person, face to face, at an office near you.
Call 800-745-2250. That's 800-745-2250. We solve tax problems.
Imagine being able to clear your breakouts fast with a revolutionary new acne treatment that's actually good for your skin. Announcing all-new Proactive Plus, the combination of acne medicine plus ultra-perfecting skincare. Television star Kristen Ritter calls it a miracle.
I love the new Proactive Plus. It's fighting all my breakouts, and my skin is like porcelain.
The results are astonishing. Your skin is not only clear, but smooth and sexy. It's our smartest, fastest, most effective solution ever. And now, new skincare is in every step to balance acne-prone skin with needed hydration and more.
I have to tell you this is different. Just look at my before and after pictures. That doesn't lie.
So grab your phone and dial the number on your screen now, because today, shipping is free. And get 3 free gifts, a $96 value for just $29.95. Call now.
You will love your skin.
If you're under the age of 85, please watch this very important message about final expense insurance. While it's never easy to talk about planning for one's funeral, it is very important to do so for many reasons. If you don't have life insurance, a final expense insurance plan pays cash to your family for final and all other expenses. If you're unable to purchase life insurance due to a pre-existing or current medical condition, call us right now for information and a free consultation. Perhaps you can't afford life insurance because of your age or because you're a smoker. Call us now and we'll guarantee you coverage. There are no tests to take and it's very affordable. Rates will never increase, the policy cannot be canceled, and there are no restrictions on how your beneficiaries can use the money. Don't delay. Call right now.
Call 1-800-842-1474, 1-800-842-1474, 1-800-842-1474, 1-800-842-1474.
Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 58 years old. 8 years into the disease was when all the light went out.
For me, it was heart-wrenching.
Looking into the eyes of somebody with Alzheimer's, sometimes you just don't see the person's soul is like gone.
And it takes a toll on everyone. I mean, it's a depressing disease to watch unfold before your eyes.
She actually thought those of us who were caring for her and who loved her most were her worst enemies.
More and more responsibilities fell on my shoulders.
This disease just ravages a family.
It changes your life.
The magnitude of it is indescribable. My mother taught me to be in the moment.
We have to live in the moment with them.
And I'm going to be with that person right now in this moment, wherever she is.
Now is the moment. If we work together, we can stop this epidemic.
Contact Bright Focus and learn more.
Why is Obama promiscuously spending money as if the deficit didn't matter? It's very obvious that if the Republicans didn't have the Congress, he would have spent a lot more. The reason he's doing it, I believe, is because he is using debt as a way to settle America's colonial debt. In other words, the idea here is that America owes the world, big time, trillions of dollars.
There is no real soft line when it comes to Dinesh D'Souza. You either love him or you hate him. You either follow his line of thinking or you wonder if he thinks at all before he speaks. No disrespect meant, and I'm certain he would agree with that statement. Dinesh D'Souza is a polarizing figure who at the moment is red hot. D'Souza is the author and filmmaker currently making the interview rounds talking about his latest film, America, Imagine a World Without Her. It is a conservative-minded documentary meant to be a follow-up to his breakout hit in 2012 entitled 2016 Obama's America. That movie came out just before the November election battle between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama and was a shocking hit, rolling up $33 million in domestic grosses. Obviously, D'Souza had touched a nerve because the country was listening.
It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
America has a dream from our founding fathers, that together we must perfect liberty, and America must grow, so liberty grows. Which dream will we carry? into 2016.
So 4 years later, D'Souza has returned with a new film asking a very simple and direct question, one that should indeed be on the lips of every American at a time of notable internal discord and disagreement.
Imagine the unimaginable. What would the world look like if America did not exist?
America is not the breakout hit as its predecessor, opening in a little over 1,000 theaters this holiday weekend past with a little under $3 million in gross figures. Not very impressive, actually, but still notable. Audiences love the film, giving it a very rare A+ cinema score, and 92% gave it a definite recommend in the exit polls. Of course, the retort will be that it played to a partisan audience, but that can be said of so many movies of all styles. Documentaries often play to a very fine line of an audience. No shock there. And certainly no shock the movie skewed older and Caucasian. Again, it's a movie. What the movie does not have is gratuitous, over-the-top special effect violence or nudity. It doesn't have an A-list star. It doesn't feature a John Williams score. It doesn't have a big marketing budget. Yet it still entertains and informs its target audience, like every other movie is designed to do. Both films are based on popular D'Souza books, conservative-based books with a definite conservative message. Some see the books and movies as insulting, derisive of President Obama, but another side believes they bring forth more than a few interesting talking points and necessary discussion concepts about our elected leader. You take your pick. It depends really on your point of view. But are the books so dangerous as to be removed from store shelves? The retailer Costco thinks so. America has been and will be removed from every Costco shelf by July 15th. Retailers can do whatever they wish. They can sell what they desire. They can also refuse to sell whatever they deem unfit for their customers. But America had sold over 3,600 copies at Costco, so someone must have been shopping there who wanted to read the message. Why Costco removed the books? A mystery. Company won't say. But the Washington Post does note that Costco ownership has contributed $100,000 to a pro-Obama super PAC, and the wife of the co-founder was an Obama campaign bundler who collected over $500,000 in donations in 2012. Coincidence? Or a multi-million-dollar business making decisions for their customers on what they think is good for them, at least as they see it? Costco customers will now decide if they approve of the company decision, and if they believe censorship is now part of what Costco offers, right next to that pallet of toilet paper and $1 All-American hot dogs. And that is telling it like it is. Next hour, liars in American politics, liars in the Middle East, and perhaps even a good liar in the NBA. What a shocker. Stay tuned. This is Midpoint, where every day we question everything.
Meet Jim. Like many of us, Jim enjoys a busy life. Between work, family, and friends, his days zip along, and Jim has the energy to tackle almost anything. But lately, Jim's get up and go has literally taken on a new meaning. Jim's always put focus on a full night's sleep, but it seems like these days, he's up and down to go to the bathroom so many times he can barely wake up in the morning. His prostate concerns have him sad, tired, and worried. Activities that were once enjoyable now seem like a chore for Jim. His golf game is at the mercy of his bathroom schedule. Family outings are planned around it too. Jim even has difficulty going to the bathroom. He's tried so many prostate remedies he can't keep them straight. Nothing ever seems to help. Then Jim found out about Prostate Revive, the all-natural dietary supplement specifically formulated for men, targeted towards improving and sustaining normal prostate function. Prostate Revive includes 15 super ingredients never combined before, including saw palmetto extract, beta-cytosterol, pomegranate fruit extract, selenium, and other high-quality nutrients. These targeted and all-natural ingredients promote healthy urinary flow and optimal prostate health. And the best part is, Prostate Revive was developed by a renowned medical doctor. Dr. David Brownstein personally formulated Prostate Revive with one goal in mind: to promote a healthy prostate gland. Thanks to Prostate Revive, Jim's got his life back. He gets a full night's sleep every night, and his friends and his wife can't believe he's the same guy. He has his old energy back, and no one has to wait for him. He doesn't even think about his prostate concerns anymore. Visit medicselect.com to take back your nights and improve your quality of life with Prostate Revive.
Learn about our risk-free trial offer at prostaterevive.com/gym.
Here's your shocker for the day. Politicians actually do tell lies. Sometimes they even get called on it. However, it may be perfectly legal and even moral in their world. How do you get a stubborn, ineffective, and corrupt national leader to leave office without having to resort to some sort of military coup? No, we're not talking about America. Rather, a fractured country and deceitful leader that won't budge and seems intent on taking America down with him. And the latest from the Middle East as Israel and Palestine fall even deeper into another war and more bloodshed. It's all here in the second stanza of the fastest 3 hours of news. We question everything for Wednesday, July 9th, 2014. There's also a stop in Cleveland scheduled for this hour with much more important matters than just the site for some political convention. It's all about this guy, LeBron, and a city seeking some sort of redemption. All that and more after John Bachman deals this edition of Newsmax Now.
Well, today, some of that testimony from whistleblowers delivered on Capitol Hill last night is still sinking in. Those folks had a chance to tell the Veteran Affairs Committee their personal stories of the tragedies veterans faced just trying to get a simple doctor's appointment.
Most physicians and nurses and people working in the hospital are disgusted. Morale is extremely low. People come up to me all the time and said, "Did that happen here?"
Dr. Christian Head, who you saw there, recounted some of his own stories about retaliation that he faced, saying that his house was foreclosed due to a suspension he received as part of retaliatory measures for coming forward and blowing the whistle on the scandals that were taking place at VA hospitals where he worked, including the one in Los Angeles. Moving on now, this is also a disturbing health story here. Employees at the National Institute of Health recently discovered some old vials containing the smallpox virus. Scientists found the vials in an unused storage room at the National Institute's building in Bethesda, Maryland. Now, according to the CDC, officials say there's no health risk right now from these vials that date back to the 1950s. Smallpox devastated populations around the world for at least 3,000 years before officially being eradicated by vaccines in 1980. And they usually pack the beaches of southern Israel, but now they are empty. Many beachgoers are staying away from holiday hotspots as Israel continues its offensive in the Gaza Strip against Hamas militants. In Tel Aviv, local neighborhood shelters were being opened and ready for anyone nearby caught during a potential rocket strike from Gaza. And one man really likes Russia, especially this time of year. It's Edward Snowden, and now he wants to stay longer in Moscow. The former National Security Agency contractor has filed papers asking Russian authorities to extend his asylum for another year, according to his lawyer. He fled Moscow after he leaked details of a U.S. surveillance program to the Guardian newspaper and the Washington Post. Russia temporarily allowed Snowden asylum, but that expires on July 31st. I'm John Bachman. More news ahead in 30 minutes.
I think it's too early to talk about the partition of Iraq yet. I think the Kurdish call for a referendum may accelerate the situation, but I don't know that we're in a position yet to say that this is sort of the end of Iraq as we know it. ISIS in particular has become quite a draw for foreign fighters because I think it is perceived as being the group that is most effective on the ground. If you look at history and you look at every other battlefield that has drawn in Westerners, that has groups on the ground that speak with this sort of a rhetoric and have this sort of an outlook, they have all produced a terrorist threat.
America is a nation that all too often stumbles and bumbles over its own good intentions, especially when it comes to nations in desperate need of saving. We swoop in to help, then get nailed by the crooks and ne'er-do-wells in charge of these countries. That, in a nutshell, might best explain why we are still in Iraq, why we may never be able to extricate ourselves in our lifetime, and why the future remains bleak for a once proud Middle Eastern nation. Let's welcome to Midpoint the chairman and chief executive of Dubai-based Dragoman Partners, the longest continuously serving American official in Iraq from 2003 to 2009, and a special assistant to 5 ambassadors. Ali Kaderi joins us today. Ali, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You know al-Maliki. You say that you have known him for more than a decade. And as we continue to talk about Iraq, it continues to take us right to him, the leader of this country, as being the single biggest problem. So as someone who knows him very well, let me ask you flat out, is he a crook or is he just caught?
It's a complicated story with him, like everything else with Iraq. There are some very serious allegations that potentially implicate him and his inner circle in various corruption schemes, yes.
So then he is a crook in many ways. Is he basically just using this to his advantage and quite frankly not willing to do what is right in order to bring Iraq back together?
Iraq faces a very serious problem with corruption, but frankly, that is the least of its issues right now. What we have seen, unfortunately, under Prime Minister Maliki over the past 4 years is a regime and a government that is increasingly dictatorial, that is increasingly sectarian, and most troublingly, perhaps, that is increasingly aligned with Iran. And all of those things pose a grave risk for American national security interests because Prime Minister Maliki's continued repression of his population, very much like Saddam did, that continued repression has caused a Sunni Arab backlash, has allowed the Sunnis to invite back into the country Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And as your previous guest mentioned, all of those things contribute to the recruitment of additional Al-Qaeda and ISIS fighters, which could potentially lead to another 9/11 one day.
As someone who knows him well and has known him for a long time, you're one of the few people that we've spoken with who actually do have a personal relationship with him and know him a little bit better. What are we not understanding about the man throughout all the media reports and everything we get?
I think, frankly, leaders in Washington seem to be unable to admit the fact that they made a huge mistake in backing him for a second term in 2010. They are refusing to acknowledge the fact that Maliki and senior members of his cabinet are on a daily basis, even an hourly basis, continuing with coordinating with Iranian generals and Iranian intelligence operatives to commit various military campaigns across Iraq. And again, that is very problematic for the United States because the White House is urging Congress to expedite shipments of F-16s, Apache attack helicopters, and Hellfire missiles, the types of missiles that are fired off of drones and Apaches. And all that would do, if Maliki got his hands on those weapon systems, would contribute to the civil war that now Iraq has plunged into again. It would lead to Syria-level violence, which would basically be genocide, which would lead to the destabilization of the Middle East, which again would further empower Al-Qaeda and other extremists, which again poses a grave threat to the United States and its national security interests.
As you know him and giving us an idea about the man that he is it your opinion now that he will do at this point going forward what is best for Iraq or what is best for Maliki?
Unfortunately, he has proven repeatedly over the past 4 years since he took office for a second term that he will not do what is best for Iraq, that he will do what is in his best interest. And in fact, he is alleged to have committed so many crimes against humanity, crimes against the state, corruption issues, that frankly, it's my assessment that he is a second Bashar al-Assad of Syria or a second Muammar of Gaddafi of Libya, that he is now willing to fight to the bitter end, literally to the death, and risk the collapse of the entire country and the death of millions of people rather than give up power. Because if he knows if he gives up power, that he will be assassinated by his political rivals almost immediately. That is what some senior advisors to Prime Minister Maliki have told me in recent days from Baghdad.
We hear so much about despots like this and people who are indeed only involved in themselves and not worried about the country. Is it as simple to say, and again, I realize, having said that already, that nothing is ever quite that simple, but is it as simple to say that he is just one of many in that area, that simply when you get to that position of power in Iraq, that you can't be trusted, that they are all looking to get there simply for their own good, and no one, we find at this point, would frankly have Iraq's best interests in mind, and then, of course, best interests of the United States becoming involved?
Frankly, I don't think it's that simple. You know, I've traveled across the Middle East with General Petraeus and American ambassadors and met with probably a dozen different heads of state, kings, dictators, and other powerful officials. Many of them are not Jeffersonian Democrats. However, at the same time, they treat their populations well, they advance the interests of their countries, and many of them are allied with the United States. So I think the good news, frankly, is that there are many potential allies for the United States across the Middle East, and there are many potential allies for the United States across Iraq itself. Unfortunately, Prime Minister Maliki and some of his Shia Islamist brethren that are aligned with Iran have proven repeatedly that they cannot be trusted and that they cannot be reliable allies to the United States.
The article that you wrote in the Washington Post was entitled "Why We Stuck with Maliki and Lost Iraq." Did we stick with him because he fooled us? We weren't smart enough to see what was coming? Or quite frankly, we simply had stuck ourselves in a situation in which there was no way out?
I think the short answer is both. The Obama White House was obviously interested in ending the war that President Bush began, and indeed, you know, they were elected partially based on that mandate. And so they were interested in winding down things as quickly as possible, and Maliki seemed to them as an easy way out, potentially. Of course, as I mentioned in the piece, lobbied strenuously against them and appealed to Vice President Biden and other senior White House officials to pivot away from Maliki and back a more Western, moderate, secular coalition. But I was overruled, and that's obviously the White House's authority to do so. The situation we face now is the country is collapsing, and we now have a threat from Al-Qaeda and ISIS. We face a threat from Iran and its Revolutionary Guards, who in the past have conspired to blow up American embassies and kill and maim thousands of American soldiers across Iraq and Afghanistan. So the situation is extremely grave, and we need to refocus back on Iraq and on the Middle East. I know our fellow Americans are very tired of the war. I don't blame them. I spent over 2,000 days serving in Iraq, but this is a very serious issue that deserves our attention.
In your opinion, why did the Obama administration not listen to you and listen to those who I'm sure were just like you, who had years of experience behind you, knew the man personally, knew what was going on the ground, and still did absolutely nothing? Was it hubris, ignorance, stupidity? We have to put it in a word somewhere.
It's a great question that is best directed, frankly, to the White House. I think that it was a combination of ignorance and delusion and hubris, that they thought they saw a friend in Prime Minister Maliki, and I believe he won them over, and they shouldn't have allowed themselves to be fooled as such. And we will all pay a very high price for that mistake in 2010.
You mentioned ISIS. This is now becoming a movement that the people can get behind, is what we're being told, that Al-Qaeda is being shunned, maybe because it is ineffectual. I want you to listen to this soundbite from Raffaello Pantucci, who's a senior research fellow from the Royal United Services Institute.
Its capabilities, its demonstrations of effectiveness are having some impact. You see a lot of the sort of radical material that comes out talks about ISIS rather than Al-Qaeda, you know, and doesn't venerate maybe people like Osama bin Laden as much as you might expect. You can see there seems to be a shift in focus in terms of the sort of global narrative. I think what's also interesting is we started to see some groups in the sort of global jihadist movement scattered around the world pledging allegiance to ISIS rather than Al-Qaeda.
I only have about 40 seconds left, but in your opinion, knowing the region and knowing the players here, do you believe now that ISIS has become much more of a danger than Al-Qaeda?
I think it's too early to tell, but I think it is probably just as much of a danger as Al-Qaeda. And the reasons are the following. Number one, all human beings like winners, and ISIS has proven to be a winner. They've conquered a third of Iraq in a couple of weeks. Second, it's a very wealthy organization now. They've seized about $500 million in gold and cash from the central bank in Mosul, and so they can finance a lot of new operatives. Third, they're armed with lots of advanced equipment the United States had sold to the Iraqis, like Humvees and mine-resistant vehicles, MRAPs, and now they're using them to wage jihad across Syria and Iraq. So these things are all very serious, and their successes contribute to additional recruitment campaigns. And so thousands of both Western citizens with Western passports and local Arabs across the Middle East are all now volunteering to serve in ISIS. And again, that is extremely dangerous to the United States and our allies around the world.
All out of time. Ali Kaderi, thank you so much for joining us. We will have you back and talk again. Again, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Bandwagon jumpers in sports and terrorism. Next up, America stuck with yet another greedy, power-hungry dictator. We'll continue on Midpoint.
Those struggling with their weight know that it goes beyond willpower.
I wish I wasn't still hungry.
Is this enough?
It's late, and I'm still hungry.
Weight loss is not just about willpower. While we have different triggers, we face similar challenges.
Am I full?
Do I want more?
Have I had enough?
Maybe it's time to try Belviq. Belviq is FDA approved for weight loss in adults who are overweight with at least one weight-related medical condition or obese. When used with diet and exercise, Belviq can help you lose weight and keep it off. Belviq works by activating receptors in your brain that are believed to cause you to feel full. For some people, this means that they can eat less.
I've had enough.
Being overweight can carry health risks, like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or type 2 diabetes. If you are overweight with any of these conditions or obese, Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Do not take Belviq if you're pregnant, planning to be, or nursing. Before taking Belviq, tell your doctor if you take medicines for depression, migraines, mental problems, or a cold, as these medicines with Belviq may cause serious or life-threatening side effects. Call your doctor if you have confusion, sweating, fever, or stiff muscles. Some people taking medicines like Belviq have had heart valve problems. Call your doctor if you have trouble breathing, swelling, dizziness, fatigue, or a regular heartbeat. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery until you know how Belviq affects you. High doses may cause mental problems. Talk to your doctor if you become depressed or have thoughts of suicide. In patients with type 2 diabetes, weight loss may cause low blood sugar. Stop taking Belviq and tell your doctor if you have prolonged erections or your breasts begin to make milk or increase in size. Belviq may decrease blood cell count. Common side effects include headache, dizziness, fatigue, nausea, dry mouth, constipation, back pain, and cough. Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Talk to your doctor about Belviq. To get your 15-day free trial offer, call 800-798-5943 or visit startbelviqnow.com today.
Now on Newsmax TV, Rand Paul wants to be your next president. But what do the polls really show? Will the GOP trust a libertarian? Watch the Malsberg Show now and find out. Go now to Newsmax TV.
Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington. We don't want John or Dean or Harry, let's do that big job right. Let's get in step with the guy that's hep, get in step with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington.
It's all about how you sell that message. Now, I understand this will come as a shock to every single person watching me now. You will not be able to tear the image from your mind of something so unbelievable, something so incredible that it makes the mind boggle at stunning speeds. Brace yourself, America. Politicians lie. Yes, as difficult as that may be to understand, politicians lie from time to time. And they do so fully protected by the law of the land. Shocker, I know. Welcome to Midpoint. Professor of Political Science at Hamline University, professor at the Minnesota School of Law, and author of the recent commentary carried in the Cleveland Plain Dealer, other places as well. Is there a First Amendment right to lie in politics? David Schultz. Professor, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Professor, whatever would drive you to write such an incredibly, unbelievably, undeniably fantastical interview and column that there's lying in politics? My goodness, man, what could have started you on this path?
Well, first, we ought to start with the fact that you said, yes, in fact, we do have lying in politics, and it's not something that's recent. It's something that's been going on since the beginning of the American Republic. And the question really is, what do we need to do about it? And there's sort of a couple of ways that I approach the question here, is to first ask the question right off the bat. In our private lives, do we consider it to be wrong to lie or unethical to lie? And most of us would say yes, except for some narrow circumstances. And in government, generally, we say that it's not okay for the government to lie. So the real question is, should it be okay for politicians to lie? And that's the starting point of the piece in terms of should it be okay for them to lie? And then if we think that it's not okay for them to lie, what's the remedy? What should we do? And my piece starts off by basically saying that they shouldn't be allowed to lie either. And now the question is why? Why shouldn't they be allowed to lie? And perhaps then at that point, what's the remedy? What should we do about it? Does the First Amendment, is there a right to free speech to be able to lie?
Well, let's start there. The First Amendment right to lie. And in the article, as you correctly point out, that according to the Supreme Court, it's okay, not a problem. Go ahead and lie, correct?
Correct. Now, there's up to a certain point, there is a Supreme Court case from back in the 1960s, New York Times versus Sullivan, which is all about libel and slander of public figures. And in general, what the standard is that clear lies where you intend to lie, where you have malice, those are not protected by the First Amendment. And so I take that as the same starting point also, that in general, that anything that is clearly a lie, an intentional lie, shouldn't be protected by the First Amendment. But recent court cases in the United States, including a recent Supreme Court case saying that it's okay for a group to go and challenge an Ohio law that makes it illegal to lie, is sending a clear signal that suggests that the Supreme Court, if it were to hear this case, would basically strike down laws making it illegal to lie in politics. And for both people on the left and the right, on both sides, no one gets to claim a monopoly of virtue on this one. On both sides, both are saying at this point that they think that law should go. That essentially they're saying they think there ought to be a First Amendment right to lie.
All right, now let's look at that. And you mentioned a word in there which I think is always very important. And as I like to tell people many times on this show, I am not an attorney. I just play one on TV. You use the word malice in there. And when we look at some of the political ads that are out there right now from people like Barack Obama, people like Mitt Romney, isn't it still fair to say that the most dangerous thing to try to prove, and the most difficult thing to prove many times, is whether there is malice aforethought?
Yeah, it's very difficult to do it. And I want to point out to people that all the time the court system has to make judgments about truth and about credibility of witnesses. Anytime two people appear before a judge, always a judge or a jury is going to have to make a decision and figure out what is the truth, who's lying, and so forth. And so it's the same thing here, that in terms of what a court would have to figure out is the person willfully lying? And part of it gets down to, again, think about what the difference is between a lie versus a mistake. If I think, for example, simple example, if I just really think 1 + 1 is 3, and I tell you 1 + 1 is 3, and I really believe it, is that a lie? No, because we want to say it's something factually untrue with some kind of intent to deceive. If I really think 1 + 1 is 3 because I'm a bad mathematician, it's not a lie, even though it's untrue. And it's the same thing here. Not only would we have to show that something was untrue, but in the process, a person knew or should have known that what they were saying was false. And that's the standard under New York Times versus Sullivan, and that perhaps ought to be the same standard that applies in politics, is that we ought to hold people to a standard of conduct, an ethical standard of conduct and a legal standard of conduct that says that if you intentionally lie, if you say something that's untrue with the intent to deceive, that we ought to hold you accountable for those actions in the same way that we would hold people accountable if they lied on a witness stand or if they lied in any other context.
I'm going to take exactly what you said here, because you have all these political ads, whether it's the president, whether it's somebody who's running for dog catcher, and a lot of times you will see or hear the line that, "I approve this message." Now that immediately implies that the individual who is being represented here looked at the message, checked it out, knew exactly what was there, and is saying, "That's exactly how I feel. Those are my thoughts. That's my opinion." Wait a minute now. If we're going to go to lie versus a mistake, isn't that a flat-out lie if you say you've approved the message?
Well, perhaps it should be. Again, the reason why we have that disclaimer on there, that's supposed to be a way to discourage people from lying. It's also supposed to be a way to try to give the public more information regarding whether or not these are candidate ads or ads run by third-party groups. And so part of this grows out of the McCain-Feingold law in terms of trying to provide the public with more information. But what those ads hit at is something very important, is that we're looking at a point right now in politics where there's significant anonymity in terms of the political ads. A lot of times people or organizations aren't making clear who they are. They might have these very nebulous names like Citizens for a Better Tomorrow or something. And so not only do we not know who those individuals are or groups are, oftentimes they're making dubious claims, and it becomes very difficult for the public to be able to sort out sort of the fact from fiction, truth and so forth. And what we really need is more disclosure. What we need is more disclosure in terms of informing the public about what's going on. Additionally, the reason why I make the argument about saying that maybe the First Amendment shouldn't protect political lies is think about how we try to promote political virtue. There's got to be two ways. One, we rely upon the political integrity of individuals and groups to be truthful and to play fair. But that's not enough. You probably also need some type of structures in place to encourage that. And that's my argument here, is that we have to rely both upon integrity, but integrity plus some type of wall. Because if we have no wall that defines the outer limits regarding whether or not somebody can lie, then clearly what we're going to lead to a situation is where anything goes. And some people may say that's okay. Maybe we just at that point let the free market of ideas, maybe we let voters decide. But that does not seem to be a mechanism that's working very effectively these days in terms of policing perhaps the truth content of our political system.
All right, a couple of minutes I got left here. You mentioned wall. Is it not simply, and I always come back to this because one of my big things is always personal responsibility, but is it not as simple to say that sometimes that wall that usually is built with lies, fabrications, half-truths, whatever it might be, mistakes, can be so easily knocked down by an educated public who simply today in the 21st century has the ability to find out the facts and all too often just allows themselves to be punch drunk in being taken aside by these ads and believing, oh, that's got to be right, that's got to be right, he said it, that's got to be right. It's the public still that needs to be intelligent enough to drive through it and get the truth. How am I doing so far?
Well, there's no question that a democracy functions upon an educated citizenry, and that we really need to make sure that citizens are empowered to be able to help sort this through. That's one of several pieces that are the puzzle. But at the same time, we have to recognize, especially in the era of social media, in the era of sort of the Facebooking of the world at this point, that information gets out there very rapidly and just sort of circulates incredibly in terms of like urban legends or urban myths. And oftentimes, either the public isn't equipped for a variety of reasons, or ideas or thoughts get out there very, very fast. And it makes it difficult, especially near the end of a campaign, for example, for either the public or for candidates to be able to respond to this information. And so I clearly agree with you in the sense that one part of the component is that we need to do better civic education in our society to make sure that people are able to sort through this information. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. A democracy has several components: educated public, the integrity of the people running for office, and structures in place that help promote a fair democracy and make sure that that marketplace of ideas operates correctly.
Well put, Professor. I'm with you all the way on this. I thank you so much. A fascinating article indeed. Is there a First Amendment right to lie in politics? Professor David Schultz, thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, and something else I do want to point out, a line that he says in this article, which I think is very, very salient. Surveys indicate that a majority of Americans think quite a few politicians are crooks, and barely a quarter of the population trusts the government. Take that to the bank for a moment. Next up, what is just as dangerous and perhaps more so than drunk driving? You might be a little shocked at this one. Midpoint continues right here on the Newsmax TV network.
Can you really lose weight without changing your lifestyle? LaToya Q did. In fact, in just 5 months, she lost nearly 2 pounds a week without changing the way she dieted or exercised.
I lost 36 pounds and I went down 4 dress sizes.
Like so many people, LaToya didn't want to change her lifestyle to lose weight. Instead, she decided to take America's #1 selling diet pill, Lipozene.
People kept asking me, "Are you you have to be exercising? You're really you just don't want to tell us what you're doing." I was like, "No, I don't have time to go to a gym." I just took Lipozene and I started seeing results immediately.
Lipozene has now sold over 20 million bottles. That's because Lipozene really works. And to prove it, we conducted our very own double-blind clinical study where all we asked people to do was take Lipozene. And by just taking Lipozene, they lost weight. But here's where it gets really exciting. These people were not asked to change their diet or exercise. And 78% of the weight they lost was pure body fat. Not water, fat.
I'm almost back down to my high school weight, so I'm really loving that.
And for even faster results, you can try Lipozene with moderate diet and exercise.
Feels great to have a six-pack. I didn't think I would have it at my age.
I lost 7 inches off of my waist and I lost 2 dress sizes and I feel amazing.
Now you can join the millions of people who have lost weight with Lipozene by trying it risk-free for only $29.95. Lipozene is guaranteed to help you lose weight or your money back.
Lipozene, it works.
But wait, call in the next 10 minutes and we'll double your order absolutely free. Plus, we'll even pay for your shipping. But that's still not all. To celebrate selling over 20 million bottles of Lipozene, the company will give you a free bottle of Metabo Up with your order. That's a $20 value free. But you must call right now because this exclusive free offer is not available in stores.
Call 1-800-509-9436. That's 1-800-509-9436.
Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? Hi, I'm George Foreman. People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can provide patent referrals and submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
For your free inventors information, call 1-800-464-1685. That's 1-800-464-1685.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Right now, Israel and Hamas are announcing that they intend to increase attacks against one another. As the violence along the Gaza Strip continues to intensify, Israel's Prime Minister is taking to Twitter to keep the Israeli people informed. Benjamin Netanyahu unleashed a series of tweets today after securing meetings with the Israeli Defense Forces. The Prime Minister tweeted, "We decided to further increase the assault on Hamas and the terrorist organizations in Gaza." Another tweet read, "Hamas will pay a heavy price for firing at Israel's citizens." In a string of tweets, the Prime Minister urged the public to listen to the instructions from the IDF while Israel is under attack. The IDF is also using Twitter to keep Israelis and the international community informed about the situation in the Middle East. And former New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin has been sentenced to 10 years in prison today. You may remember Nagin as the face of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. A jury convicted Nagin today of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes. The bribes included cash and all expenses paid vacations. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to Midpoint.
There is no middle ground on drinking and driving. It's just plain stupid, no matter how you slice it. And I will wager that the majority of those watching us right now have done it. Come on, you feel bad about it, or perhaps still subscribe to the belief that, hey, a few drinks won't bother me because I've mastered the art of driving drunk, something we all know to be insane at best. But now there is something else that is considered to be just as dangerous, perhaps even more so than drinking and driving, and it involves a piece of technology we just cannot learn to put down, even if it may cost us our life. Newsmax correspondent Miranda Kahn is here with another edition of Checks and Balances.
Well, Ed, here's the question for you. During the past 30 days, have you ever nodded off or fallen asleep, even just for a brief moment while driving? Well, if you answered yes, you're not alone. That's the question the Centers for Disease Control asked more than 90,000 participants in 10 states and Puerto Rico, and the results are an eye-opener to say the least. Here are the statistics. Out of the 33,000 deadly crashes that occur each year, the CDC reports 7,500 of those involve drowsy driving. That compares to the more than 10,000 deadly crashes that involve drinking and driving, a pretty small margin when you think about it. In other words, the CDC estimates 25% of all deadly crashes are a result of drowsy driving. It's an accelerated threat, and it can have dangerous consequences. Take a look for yourself.
Pulled out, didn't see a white truck entering the turn lane, and I hit him at like a 45-degree angle. It never really occurred to me that my judgment would be so impaired that I would actually get into an accident.
And here's another example of an ambulance driver. We're going to go to that video. Of an ambulance driver. Actually, that's not the video, but we're going to go to it. This is actually a different video of the crash involving Tracy Morgan. But there was another example that I was going to show you of an ambulance driver who actually fell asleep while transporting a patient. You could actually see in the video him nodding off. There it is right here. You can see him actually nodding off. You see his head kind of bopping up and down. He's actually carrying a patient in the ambulance with him. He veers off to the left and then actually slammed the ambulance into a disabled vehicle. Now I want to show you another video, if we can go to that. That's where you see a woman on a scooter. No, this is the Tracy Morgan video. We're going to go to that in a moment. Do we have the video? Do we have the video of the woman in the scooter?
I think we're probably going to be out of time here for a second because we're coming down on a feature that we have to run. But let me just ask you this very briefly in 10 seconds. Do you use your phone for texting while you drive?
For texting? No.
Do you do it either?
No.
But we've all done it. We all
I
seem
do
to.
talk on the phone with a headset.
Yes.
I do that. But I think, you know, what's really disturbing is that a lot of people are getting fewer and fewer hours of sleep. And really the key number here is anything less than 5 hours of sleep, you really shouldn't be behind the wheel.
It is indeed. Miranda Kahn, thank you so much for being with us today and bringing this report. Now something else to keep you healthy. Dr. Chauncey Crandall and today's Medical Minute right here on Newsmax.
Hello, I'm back this week with this very important question. Is your doctor taking your blood pressure correctly? You may assume so, but a new study shows you may be wrong. According to this new research, doctors often cut corners when taking blood pressure and record readings that may be much too high. This is important information. First, if your blood pressure reading is wrong, you could be misdiagnosed with high blood pressure and put on powerful drugs for the rest of your life. You could also be denied health insurance and your job may even be put in jeopardy. This is important information, so pay close attention. Number one, is your doctor using the right size blood pressure cuff? Cuffs come in two different sizes, average and large, but too often only the average size cuff is even used, even on the person with a larger forearm. If the cuff is too tight, the reading will be too high. Number two, is your blood pressure taken in both of your arms? Doctors are taught that this is not mandatory, but it should be. Even a small difference between the two pressure readings can mean you are at great risk of suffering from a stroke or even dying of heart disease. And number three, is your blood pressure taken when you are seated on the examining table with your legs dangling in the air? If so, your reading may be 10 points too high. You should be seated in the chair with your feet on the floor and your legs apart and relaxed. Don't cross your legs at either the knees or the ankles. Remember, if your doctor doesn't take your blood pressure the correct way, you could be putting your health at risk. Many of you already have my book, The Simple Heart Cure. So if you do, you can read all about high blood pressure in Chapter 8. That's my health tip for this week. I'll see you next week with another important Heart Health Minute.
Get your copy of Dr. Crandall's best-selling book, The Simple Heart Cure, for just $4.95 with this special offer. Go to www.simpleheartbook.com to get your copy today. That's simpleheartbook.com.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, Did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh, yes. And that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
These are real-life emergencies. They happen suddenly, unexpectedly. You can be lost, alone, or in control. You can have help at the push of a button.
This is Medical Alert. How may I help you?
Announcing Medical Alert, the personal alarm system. Medical Alert is there for you in minor emergencies, too.
Hello, this is Medical Alert. How may I help you?
I'm not feeling well. I'm lightheaded.
Do you need an ambulance, Julie?
Please, no fuss. Can you call my neighbor Gladys for me?
Right away.
I know my children worry about me being alone, but I'm not really alone with my Medical Alert.
Call now for your free consultation to see if Medical Alert is right for you. You'll get this keychain flashlight free just for calling and be eligible to get this second emergency button and this locking key box free with your order.
For your complete medical alert system with the free keychain flashlight, call 1-800-531-6754.
Tonight we are a country awakened to danger and called to defend freedom.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
The answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
The city of Cleveland has been awarded the Republican National Convention for 2016. Okay, next. Because while this may seem big news to everybody else in Cleveland, it is a mere footnote for what the real concern is. Every man, woman, and child, dog, pet, makes no difference, sitting nervously, patiently, anxiously, awaiting word on the return of LeBron James. There's also talk about a quarterback who almost everyone believes will likely crash and burn faster than anything that might have been flaming on the Cuyahoga River. Welcome to Midpoint for this edition of Stick and Ball, Emmy Award-winning journalist, nightly sports anchor at CBS 19 in Cleveland, a good friend from years spent trying to get athletes to say something coherent in a post-game interview. Tony Zarella joins us today. Tony, thanks for being with us.
It's great to talk to you. And by the way, the river hasn't caught on fire in at least 2 years.
I was going to say at least 2 years, so you're safe here. But is it not safe to say that, I mean, you get the Republican convention, big deal. People are going, no. It's got to be LeBron. He meets today with Pat Riley of the Miami Heat somewhere in a mysterious cavern in Las Vegas. How can these people in Cleveland think that LeBron would want to come back? Come on, Tony, really?
You know what? Up until about a week ago, I was with you on that. I didn't understand. And by the way, I didn't understand the desire to have him back. And I've been one of these guys. It's not because of the TV show 4 years ago. I'm old school. I'm not in favor of guys, going for the next quick fix, add water, stir, win a title. I mean, the Spurs just went 7 years until their most recent title. They didn't defect. Kobe hasn't defected, and they're trash right now out in L.A. I mean, the fact is, the great ones don't do that. It's not a good look. And I know he's from here, but he's never considered himself from Cleveland. He's made that apparent his entire life. He's putting on Yankee caps and standing on the Cowboy sidelines. My point being that nostalgia was never going to come into play for him, and I didn't understand why Cavs fans wouldn't want to just build a better team and kick his tail on the way to a title.
Is that not the bigger issue here, that people in Cleveland perhaps just need to move on at this point? The guy's been gone 4 years. As a matter of fact, the owner slammed him every which way but Sunday when he left and said, I personally guarantee we'll win a championship before LeBron James ever does, which, of course, he lost on big time here. But haven't the people just been told, because I know you also do radio there, just move on, folks? I mean, stop already.
It's a great point. There's so much at play here in the dynamic in a city like Cleveland, which I know you know what this town is like, and it's a very blue-collar town, and it's a diminishing economy and population. It has not been good in sports, obviously. It's been 50 years since they've celebrated a championship. That generation is dying off, the Jim Brown generation. That comes into play big time. Because really what happened is over time as people softened, and LeBron admitted the mistake of at least handling it the way he did. What has happened is everyone's kind of started to swing a little bit, and you have a big faction of people who I just want to win. I just want to win. If that's what it takes to win, come back. The other element in this, Ed, is that it's like the girl that dumped you then wants you back, and you feel worthy again. No, it is though, right? I mean,
it is.
The minute he says, you know what, I got to go home. This was great in Miami. I did what I wanted to do, and now I want to go home. Now everybody in Cleveland's shoulders go up a little bit, right? And they don't sag anymore, and they feel better about their city, which if you stay here, no one moves here. But I mean, but a lot of people stay.
Fair.
No, they don't, though. I mean,
no, they don't.
You live in a Mecca. You know, you live in a Mecca down there. But and I love Cleveland. I moved here 8 years ago, and it's great. There's great people, but it's not a place. It's not a destination. So the minute he says, I'm coming home, I want to be there, everybody here feels better about themselves. That's a big part of this.
Isn't it fair to say, though, a lot of the people in Cleveland really want him to come back just so they can fire off Twitter shots, Facebook shots, YouTube shots, and everything as much as they can at the people of Miami just to feel a little good about themselves?
Well, I do think they appreciate the fact that the Heat fans are starting to feel the sense of panic that people here felt. But, you know, our good friend Jim Berry said something very interesting last night. And this was his take. I asked him how the Heat fans were going to handle this if LeBron comes back. And he said his sense was most fans here in Miami appreciate what LeBron did. They never really thought he loved Miami. He wanted to go down there and win a title or two. And then, you know, mission accomplished, no hard feelings. Then that was not the feeling here, as you know, in 2010.
All right, the second thing going on in Cleveland right now, Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel, rookie for the Cleveland Browns. He hasn't quite gotten that memo, it would seem, to stay out of trouble before you actually get your first snap in the NFL. I mean, come on. He's been photographed now partying with Justin Bieber, whom I promised one time we'd never mention on this show, but we have to simply because it's a news item here.
That was the low, yeah.
And he apparently is in some sort of a picture with money in his hand in a men's room somewhere, and people don't quite know exactly what's going on. He hasn't quite gotten that lesson. Isn't there honestly the feeling that although this guy was a huge deal in the NCAA, that he is really headed for a blow-up sooner or later? It's going to happen.
Well, on the heels of the last picture, and after which I tweeted that, please tell me this is fake, having been down that road myself, unfortunately, obviously not a good look, and that would be a major problem. If that picture is not real, I've been able to live with a lot of stuff he's doing. I don't care if he's in Vegas on a swan. I don't care. The Bieber thing, just because I want to slap Bieber down, that bothered me a little bit. But yeah, I think there's a point here where you say, listen, this is fun, live it up. We get it, your lifestyle, but how about playing a little bit first?
How about playing? How about playing pro football first and actually being in training camp and doing something before you turn into a jerk?
I guess I knew what they were getting, and I actually wanted them to get Manziel during the draft because I like everything about him, and I like the swagger, and I think that plays a little bit into how he plays on the field. But I think it's starting to get a little concerning. I agree with you.
All right, I got about 45 seconds left here. Is it not fair to say that the two things we've talked about here, LeBron James and Johnny Manziel, it's desperately needed by Cleveland. The people there just need something, sports success for the psyche, Tony. My God, what will happen if they lose LeBron and Manziel blows up? I can't even think. Apoplectic just comes to mind.
Well, it would be life as always here. I mean, but I will tell you real quick, and I know we got to go. I think, what has happened here has been incredible in terms of putting Cleveland on the national map. I mean, ESPN obviously is going to have to build a bureau here if LeBron comes back because they only talk about 2 stories. 3, when Josh Gordon gets suspended. So I think it's good to see any kind of attention on this sports town.
But they do need it, right? Come on, it'd be nice for the people.
Of course, they haven't. These teams haven't been relevant. I mean, come on, man. We're lucky to get a Thursday night game.
Well, we're happy. Well, we're happy to report, of course, as you said, that the old joke is true. The river has not caught on fire, so everything is good at that point. And you do have the Republican convention. So you mentioned it. I mentioned it. But
well, listen. How about you talked about everybody being involved in this? Rubio tweeted right after we got the convention. Yeah, but you're not getting LeBron.
Politicians always good at it. Tony Zarella, CBS 19 in Cleveland. Good talking to you, buddy. We'll talk to you again real soon. Take care.
All right, thanks.
It is important to mention as well that, as I said, LeBron James is meeting with Pat Riley of the Miami Heat today. No decision has come out yet, and hopefully there will not be another ESPN decision show. please. Coming up next, the conflict in the Middle East, Israel versus Hamas, and what the world is saying about it. It's next on Midpoint.
Keep watching for a special free offer from Dr. Andrew Orden.
I've spent nearly 30 years looking for an effective, instant breakthrough to reduce the appearance of wrinkles that can be applied topically instead of with surgery or invasive medical techniques. And I finally found it with Derm Exclusive's Fill and Freeze.
The fill and freeze is definitely a secret weapon. It just instantly fills the crow's feet area around the smile lines and smooths out the whole complexion.
The powerful 4-peptide combination in Fill and Freeze eliminates the appearance of wrinkles by visibly restoring skin to its natural smooth state instantly.
I want to look like I'm 25 again, don't we all? Every morning I put the Fill and Freeze on. The lines around my eyes are completely gone. I look 15 years younger. It gives me a lot more confidence.
Now it's your turn to see your own instant results with Fill and Freeze and pay only $39.95. But act fast because Dr. Orden is giving the first 500 callers a second full tube of Fill and Freeze free. That's nearly $120 of Fill and Freeze for only $39.95.
With Fill and Freeze, you can take away the wrinkles. I'm able to put it on my crow's feet and wrinkles I was getting, and they totally disappear. I look 10 years younger.
Call now and this special offer gets even better. Today, Dr. Orden will also send you his micro-peel resurfacing pads, intensive repair serum, and collagen lift moisturizer. A $200 value, absolutely free.
I know you're wondering what Derm Exclusive can do for you. Well, you don't have to wonder. You can order it right now and try it for yourself, absolutely risk-free.
Call now and we'll even upgrade your order to express delivery free. Call 1-800-662-1971 and claim your free Fill and Freeze, plus over $200 in bonuses. That's 1-800-662-1971. Call now.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS? Are you struggling to make ends meet because you owe more in taxes than you can afford to pay?
The IRS is relentless and will collect from you. They can garnish your wages or place a levy on your bank account. You have rights, and you can stop them by calling the tax resolvers.
If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, our qualified CPAs, tax negotiators, and support staff know the law and know how to get your situation under control legally and permanently.
Call the number on your screen now, and we will contact the IRS on your behalf. Help you end wage garnishment, stop collection calls, remove tax liens, resolve tax penalties, and reduce the amount you owe if you qualify.
It's a free call and a free consultation, but we can only help if you pick up the phone and dial the number below.
You wouldn't fix your car without going to a mechanic, so why face the IRS without an experienced company that can help you?
If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, call now and find out how we can help you resolve your IRS problems.
Call the tax resolvers at 800-489-3480.
Hi, I'm Ben Affleck. The only thing better than playing a hero in the movies is being a hero in real life. Like the 50,000 veterans who returned from Iraq and Afghanistan with devastating injuries. They are true heroes, and they're why I'm proud to support Paralyzed Veterans of America. For more than 60 years, Paralyzed Veterans of America has made a promise to never leave a fallen comrade behind. They make sure veterans with spinal cord injuries get the quality medical care, rehabilitation, and housing they need when they come home. They stay with our fallen heroes for the long term, offering counseling, job training, and support to help them regain the freedom and independence they fought so hard for, all at no cost to them. Our veterans fought for us. Let's fight for them. To learn more about how you can help, visit pva.org. That's pva.org. We will never leave a fallen comrade behind.
Rockets are flying almost every hour in the skies above Israel and Palestine. At least 5 rockets were shot down over Tel Aviv early Wednesday. This after a barrage of longer-range rockets slammed nearby major cities. Most falling harmlessly are being intercepted by the nation's Iron Dome missile defense system. The current situation in Israel, our focus in this edition of News Call.
The skies over Israel have lit up tonight. Sirens have sounded, and Israelis have been told they have between 15 seconds and 1 minute to run to shelter and avoid rockets coming in, launched by Hamas in this escalation of violence that many fear could easily become the next war fought in that region of constant troubles.
Running in terror as sirens wail. Incoming rockets today over Israel's biggest cities, the most brazen and provocative attacks yet by Palestinian militants. Over Tel Aviv, an interceptor fired by the famous Iron Dome anti-missile system, knocking a rocket out of the sky. So far, an estimated 150 rockets flew into Israel today, targeting more than 10 cities. Israeli forces have streamed towards the Gaza Strip, preparing for a possible ground invasion.
The fact that they're using these longer range missiles now, the militant groups here claim that they're both locally made rockets, but also some that the Israeli military has said appear to be Syrian made using Iranian technology. And the militant groups here have managed to obtain these rockets despite the fact that Gaza is, of course, kept under very tight border restrictions by both Israel and Egypt. The Israeli military says that more than 45 rockets were fired overnight targeting big cities.
Officials say militants in Gaza have launched more than 20 rockets today alone. And overnight, Israel's military began what it's calling Operation Protective Edge, striking dozens of targets in Gaza. Israeli officials say the airstrikes are targeting terrorists, hitting sites used by militants in Gaza. Israel's army claims it's restoring stability by destroying the infrastructure of Hamas, the militant group that's now claimed responsibility for the surge in rocket attacks on southern Israel.
For hours, Israel hit Gaza by land and sea. The Israeli army says it struck rocket launchers, weapons storage facilities, and training bases used by Gaza fighters. The strikes tore through buildings and flattened homes, and this morning, Gazans are picking through the pieces. In one case, Israel warned this man's family before it dropped a missile on his house.
After 10 minutes of evacuating the house, they attacked it. The house is totally destroyed.
Despite the strikes, Palestinian fighters keep launching rockets, forcing hundreds of thousands of Israelis into bomb shelters.
Hamas officials say Israeli airstrikes killed 4 Hamas militants Tuesday in a car while driving. Later, another airstrike hit the home of a Hamas leader, killing 6 people and setting off a scene of panic. Screaming Palestinians carried victims' bodies, including what appeared to be 2 children.
We warned the Israeli occupation against continuing the escalation and targeting civilian institutions and homes. This is a red line we will not allow the occupation to cross.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has instructed the military to prepare for the worst, including a potential ground invasion.
The Israeli military makes these warning calls, known as a knock on the roof, before a strike to minimize civilian casualties. Here, the roof was knocked clean off. Rihab left the house in this cramped neighborhood of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza before the missile struck. Regardless of what the target might be, the problem in Gaza is that it is one of the most crowded places on earth. Wherever Israel strikes, there's a high probability that innocent people will be hurt.
And at last word, we're looking at it right now. At least 49 Palestinians have been killed, more than 450 injured in the airstrikes. That is according to Palestinian medical sources. Also among the dead, 8 women, 11 children, including an 18-month-old baby and an 80-year-old woman. Again, that is a list provided by Palestinian medical sources. It is a story which we will keep up on here on Midpoint. All of our programs are on the Newsmax TV network and certainly talk about in the days, hopefully just the days and not the weeks to come. Third hour of Midpoint, responding to President Obama's decision on not visiting the Texas-Mexico border and the car that could indeed be a killer. It's all coming up right here on Midpoint, where every day we question everything.
Stop living with hair loss, that is. Losing your hair is no fun, and no one wants to be bald, but there is hope.
Getting my hair back was the best thing that ever happened to me.
I'm happy with the way I look now.
I'm very excited about my hair.
I feel beautiful.
I love my hair.
Hair Club offers all proven hair loss solutions backed by our commitment to satisfaction guarantee. If you're not 100% satisfied with the solution you choose, Hair Club will apply the purchase price to another proven hair loss solution or transplant more hair at no charge.
That was the best thing I've ever done.
It looks good on me.
Call in the next 5 minutes to get your free brochure at no obligation. It will tell you everything you need to know about your hair loss problem, and it's free if you call now.
I am more pleased than what I had even imagined.
I at least look, I would say, 5 years younger.
I'm 52, and I look better now than I did when I was in my 40s.
I feel great.
And that's not all. The first 100 people who call will also receive $250 off any hair loss solution from Hair Club. Call now.
3 a.m. and you're up again for the third time. It's not just affecting your sleep, it's interrupting your daily life. Frequent trips to the bathroom due to an aging prostate is a common concern, but you can now do something about it with Prostate Revive. Doctor-formulated Prostate Revive is an all-natural dietary supplement packed with 15 powerful ingredients, focused on improving prostate health by targeting the two main sources of prostate concerns, rogue testosterone and inflammation. And now, in this limited time offer, you can try Prostate Revive absolutely free. That's a free bottle, a 30-day supply of Prostate Revive, risk-free. Plus, if you call right now, you'll also receive our free report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. Call now for details on getting your free bottle, plus our doctor's report. Call 1-800-659-REVIVE. That's 1-800-659-REVIVE. Don't be a victim of an aging prostate. Start getting the sleep you need and get your life back with Prostate Revive. Claim your risk-free bottle now at 1-800-659-REVIVE.
The president is concerned with his optics, and some would take that as not being concerned at all with his citizens. How Barack Obama blew yet another chance to show leadership in a time of crisis, according to his critics. Seeing the immigration crisis up close and personal, one person who can tell us what it's really like trying to get a handle on the truth, and truth be told, about what might be the most dangerous car on the road in America today. The final stanza in the fastest 3 hours of news as we question everything for Wednesday, July 9th, 2014. We are once again being bombarded with so much hyperbole from the border, unconfirmed reports about head lice, gang members, Border Patrol edicts. You will understand why we feel the need to help separate fact from fiction. Fireworks are on the way. First, let's get this Newsmax Now update from John Bachman.
Well, Congress listened to hours of testimony last night, which indicates that senior management at VA hospitals across the country intimidated and bullied whistleblowers and even covered up patient neglect. And here on Newsmax TV, Florida Congressman and House Committee Chairman Jeff Miller was on America's Forum and said some VA officials need to be fired. Some may even need to go to jail.
Instead of being a customer-driven department dedicated to veterans, the focus instead has been on serving the interest of the senior managers in charge.
Meanwhile, instead of getting fired, VA supervisors who stifled whistleblowers actually got hefty cash bonuses. Also, the Office of Special Counsel says it is investigating some 67 cases of workforce retaliation against whistleblowers, some of whom spoke before Congress last night. And later today, President Obama will travel to Texas, where he'll meet with religious and political leaders, as well as Governor Rick Perry, about the surge of illegal immigrants at the U.S.-Mexican border. But first, he took to the podium in Denver to take shots at Republicans.
They have a plan to sue me. They plan to sue me for taking executive actions that are within my authority while they do nothing. I have a better idea. They should do something. Gosh, doesn't it get you just frustrated? We could do so much more.
Well, this was supposed to be a fundraiser for Colorado Senator Mark Udall, but Udall skipped the event. His office says the senator had to stay in Washington to votes, but some people speculate that he didn't want to be seen with the president. And during that stump-like speech, we heard the president say we could do more. Well, some people, including members of the president's own Democratic Party, say Obama should be doing more. When Obama visits Texas today, he'll be attending those fundraisers, but he will not take time out of the visit to visit the southern border, where he says there is a humanitarian crisis unfolding. Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar said that this issue could turn into Obama's Katrina moment. More news in 30 minutes. I'm John Bachman.
An urgent humanitarian situation that needs to be dealt with. And you've seen a very proactive response from the federal government. And what we'd like Congress to do is to act with the same sense of urgency and make sure that this administration has all of the necessary resources to deal with the situation.
Earlier I mentioned we are constantly being pummeled in the various news media with the reports and claims about what is happening at the U.S.-Mexico border, what they say is happening. One fact that is indisputable is the President of the United States refusing to appear at the border due to what the White House refers to as the negative optics of such an appearance. This while more than a few people have called this Obama's Katrina. So let's dig in. Welcome to Midpoint, the representative for Georgia's 6th District and one of the harshest critics for the president's failure to bring both sides together in solid immigration reform. We welcome Congressman Tom Price to Midpoint. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Congressman, how ashamed should the President of the United States be that it comes down to negative optics instead of making an appearance at the U.S.-Mexico border?
Well, it's just phenomenal. I think the American people, when they listen to that line, as well as the comments that your program just played of the president speaking in Colorado, they just shake their head and they want to know where's the leadership. And the fact of the matter is that there is no leadership coming out of the White House on this and so many other matters. So most individuals in their personal lives, in their businesses, in their communities, when they have an emergency, they want to see firsthand what that emergency looks like so they can help solve that problem as rapidly as possible. And this president, instead of going to the border and seeing what the challenge is, seeing what tens of members of Congress have seen when they've gone down there, including Henry Cuellar, one of the Democratic leaders in this arena, the president instead decides he's just going to go campaign and raise money for the political races this fall. It's a huge lack of leadership.
Congressman, answer the critics who would then, on the other side, say that it simply doesn't make any sense for the president to be there. And again, we get down to that optics issue that, quite frankly, no matter what the president does at this point, his critics will make fun of it, they will mock it, and they will hammer away at him no matter what he does at this point. Your answer to that would be?
Well, it's just not true. I mean, the fact of the matter is all we're calling for is let's have a strategy. Let's have a plan, Mr. President. What's your plan instead of just throwing money at this problem? What's your plan to finally secure and control the border? What's your plan to make certain that this humanitarian crisis that we believe is a direct result of this administration's policy of saying that any child that comes here is able to stay? What's your plan for solving that crisis? That's what the American people want to know. That's what we want to know. We're happy to work with the president. The fact of the matter is the president refuses to sit down with us and work with us as opposed to going to Colorado and to Texas and simply belittling Republicans in a political speech.
So the president says Republicans do nothing. You, of course, say that the president is doing nothing. I then ask you then, as somebody who sits in these meetings, who is a part of this decision-making process, what one thing needs to be done by either side or both sides at this point simply to start the discussion?
Look, the president has to engage in this process, and he refuses to do so. All he does is go out on the campaign trail and mock and criticize Republicans for not doing anything, but he refuses to sit down with Republicans and come to a positive solution. There are things that must be done, yes. First off, the president ought to enforce the current law and control and secure the border. There's nothing in current law that precludes this administration from enforcing and controlling and securing our southern border. Nothing. He says that he needs some more laws passed or some more resources to be able to do so. There's nothing that precludes him from doing that right now. He wants to act from an executive position. Well, let's act, Mr. President. Let's lead. That's what the American people want.
What is, in your opinion, then, the short game and the end game of the president for not enforcing the law?
Well, this is where you get into conjecture, and it's hard to ascribe motive to another individual. But I have come to the conclusion that the president is the biggest opponent to positive immigration reform. If he were a proponent of immigration reform, he would know that what needs to occur is to regain the trust and the confidence of not just Republicans in Congress, but the American people, that he is serious about controlling and securing the border. The fact that he has allowed this to happen, in fact, I believe in his words and actions through his administration, have encouraged this crisis to unfold on the southern border. The fact that that has occurred means to me that he believes that this inures to his political benefit. And it's reinforced again by the speech that he just gave in Colorado, and by, I'm sure, the speech that he'll give in Dallas, when he, in a hyper-partisan way, he will continue to divide this country, not bring folks together.
How insulted are you as an elected official in this country that you hear the President of the United States at what is basically a fundraising event and then takes time to mock the Republicans, to basically use it as a platform to tell jokes, if you will, instead of trying to be that unifying force and bring the sides together? How insulted are you?
Well, it demonstrates this AWOL president. He's absent without leadership. And am I insulted? Yes, but I'll tell you who's really insulted, and that's the American people. The American people understand that we've never seen a president who's been this divisive. This president's stock and trade is to divide one part of the country against another. What this country needs, and I believe will respond strongly to in a positive way, is positive leadership that says, let's come together and solve the remarkable challenges that we have. Sadly, we haven't seen that out of this administration. We beg the president to join us in conversation, in dialogue, in positive dialogue, not ridicule, not mocking, not hyper-partisan words that come out of the president's mouth day after day after day, but positive dialogue that will actually get us to a solution for these remarkable challenges that we face.
Is it your opinion that your fellow members, your fellow Republicans, are doing absolutely everything they can at this point in a sane and rational way in order to provide that sort of positive leadership that you say we need to see?
I believe so. I mean, there's more that both sides can do, but I'll tell you, as my mom used to say, it takes two to tango. You can't dance by yourself. This requires the president to participate in this process and lead. And he has been an absolute failure in terms of leadership in this country. And consequently, that's why we see the challenge that we have on the southern border, the challenge that we have in the IRS, the challenge that we have at the VA, the challenge that we've had in Benghazi, the challenge that we had with his trading Bergdahl for the Taliban 5. All of these things are an abject failure of leadership and a direct consequence of his administration's policies.
Congressman, I'll ask you please stay with us for just a couple of minutes. I want to welcome in the Deputy Press Secretary for the Republican National Committee. Rafi Williams joins us as well. Rafi, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Rafi, let me get your immediate reaction right away, because we've now heard the congressman discuss it, the president in Denver basically taking turns making jokes about what is happening now instead of trying to actually get something done.
Well, I think we're running into a problem, and I think the congressman was dead on when he says that, he's putting politics over governing and good governance and what Americans need and expect, and what we need to work together to build unity to figure out this crisis at the border that he is ignoring and would prefer to play pool and drink beer instead of go figure out.
So what do we do next? And again, the congressman is sitting here, you've heard him, but from your position and the position of the Republican National Committee, let's come up with one thing. Sit down and talk is one thing. It's wonderful to say, but what's the linchpin here to get things started? Where do we at least try to trip this and get it moving right now?
Well, I think you have to look at border security first. You have to secure the border to make sure this crisis does not continue. And you need to figure out how you solve the crisis of having all these children here, and what do you do with them, and where do you put them, and how does government handle that? And I think that you need to have positive conversations, as the congressman was saying. And I think that doesn't start until Obama stops making fun of Republicans and stops pretending like he's doing something that he isn't.
Congressman, let me ask you, because we get a tremendous amount of reports every single day on a number of media sources that talk about disease, talk about children with head lice coming down their face that can be seen. Do you have any evidence of that? I mean, you certainly see a lot of the reports internally that we don't see in the general public and the media, but is there any real evidence that there's this preponderance for disease crossing the border?
Well, we don't have any transparency coming out of the administration on this, so there's nothing specific that I'm able to point to officially, but I can tell you that tens of my colleagues have been down to the border from the House of Representatives and have talked to these kids and talked to these families that have come across, have seen them in the holding areas, and they have said that they have seen individuals who they believed were ill and weren't getting the kind of attention that was needed, and the kinds of stories that you've read about. But what needs to occur is that the president needs to be open and honest with the American people about what the situation is and what is his plan. What's his strategy for closing and securing the border and making certain that this crisis doesn't continue to escalate. That's what thinking people would do. That's what the logical action should be. You ask what should be done. The first step is for the president to say, okay, this is what our plan is to solve this problem. Not just get more money so that he can spend it as he deems fit, but what's the plan to solve this current problem?
Rafi, I'll get it from you. We have about a minute and a half left right here. What are you hearing? What is the RNC hearing from constituents on the ground right now who are worried about what is happening to their communities?
People are upset. They're angry. They want this solution. They want this crisis to be solved. They want it to be handled in an adult-like manner. And they're disappointed in our president and what he's put forth and what he's doing and how he's basically ignoring the situation and just asking for blank checks. The people are sick of writing blank checks for failed government programs, and they want some accountability here, something the president has been lacking on. And so they are very upset and angry, and they hope that he will put aside partisan politics, come together, and solve a crisis that needs to be solved.
Congressman, about 40 seconds we have left. Can you impart to us anything that you personally have heard from a constituent, from somebody on the ground as to their story and their concerns?
Well, we've had individuals in our district who've been just irate at what they see as a terrible lack of leadership and inaction coming out of the administration, and what my constituents and folks across this country continue to believe is a lawless manner in which this administration works. There are folks, I represent a northern suburban Atlanta district. There are folks in the Atlanta area who, as I understand it, have been asked whether or not there will be individuals coming from the border being transported to the Atlanta area. I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that, but I know that that's apparently the plan of this administration is to ship these young children across the country and then have them wait until they potentially have some type of hearing. But that's not a solution to the crisis. That's not a solution to the challenge. And that's what we demand that the president do, is work positively with us, positively, to solve this crisis and challenge that we have. The first step on the part of the president ought to be to go to the border and see what's happening with his own eyes.
An important story we will continue to follow. Congressman Price, Rafi Williams, we're all out of time. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you
so much.
It is something indeed that we will continue to follow, and we should, because here on Midpoint, we question everything.
Those struggling with their weight know that it goes beyond willpower.
I wish I wasn't still hungry.
Is this enough?
It's late, and I'm still hungry.
Weight loss is not just about willpower. While we have different triggers, we face similar challenges.
Am I full?
Do I want more?
Have I had enough?
Maybe it's time to try Belviq. Belviq is FDA approved for weight loss in adults who are overweight with at least one weight-related medical condition or obese. When used with diet and exercise, Belviq can help you lose weight and keep it off. Belviq works by activating receptors in your brain that are believed to cause you to feel full. For some people, this means that they can eat less.
I've had enough.
Being overweight can carry health risks like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or type 2 diabetes. If you are overweight with any of these conditions or obese, Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Do not take Belviq if you're pregnant, planning to be, or nursing. Before taking Belviq, tell your doctor if you take medicines for depression, migraines, mental problems, or a cold, as these medicines with Belviq may cause serious or life-threatening side effects. Call your doctor if you have confusion, sweating, fever, or stiff muscles. Some people taking medicines like Belviq have had heart valve problems. Call your doctor if you have trouble breathing, swelling, dizziness, fatigue, or irregular heartbeat. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery until you know how Belviq affects you. High doses may cause mental problems. Talk to your doctor if you become depressed or have thoughts of suicide. In patients with type 2 diabetes, weight loss may cause low blood sugar. Stop taking Belviq and tell your doctor if you have prolonged erections or your breasts begin to make milk or increase in size. Belviq may decrease blood cell count. Common side effects include headache, dizziness, fatigue, nausea, dry mouth, constipation, back pain, and cough. Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Talk to your doctor about Belviq. To get your 15-day free trial offer, call 800-798-5943 or visit startbelviqnow.com today.
Now on Newsmax TV, Rand Paul wants to be your next president. But what do the polls really show? Will the GOP trust a libertarian? Watch the Malsberg Show now and find out. Go now to Newsmax TV.
we have a humanitarian crisis that must be dealt with right now. We think the funding for shelter and medical care is essential. We have grave concerns on the increased funding of border militarization. There's money for drones, increased surveillance, things that actually have been extremely costly to taxpayers and have not proven any benefit, have actually increased criminal rings along the border. So I think we need to really question that.
It is a given for any reporter or journalist heading to the border. There's a very good chance you will not be getting close contact with the truth, for there are a number of incidents and issues being kept under wraps and away from prying eyes. It makes for a wealth of stories, claims, beliefs, hyperbole. Let's see about getting some straight answers from the ground. Welcome into Midpoint, columnist, author, and commentator from the website Politichicks. And joining us from ground level in Murrieta, California, Dr. Gina Loudon joins us today. Gina, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Ed.
Gina, first tell us what took you to Murrieta, because it was a very specific instance that brought you there.
Well, I am a citizen journalist. I believe that it is our duty to go capture these moments and get the truth out to people. So I wanted to interview the people who disagree with my perspective on the issue to see if they had anything to say that maybe would add food for thought to the way I thought of this. To me, this seems like a humanitarian crisis for the United States. And so I really wanted to hold that up against their arguments and see where I landed.
When you first went to Murrieta, when you first got there and started to meet some of the people there, again, we hear reports of gangs being there, MS-13. We hear about militia members that are there. Some very unconfirmed reports have said there's weapons that are involved here at Murrieta. What did you see?
I did see a lot of security, a lot of border patrol, as you might imagine. I didn't see any federal agents that had been discussed. They could have been there because it was quite a wide array, spread across. You could hardly figure out who was who because there were so many on the conservative side saying, we need to talk about things like sovereignty and the health of the United States. And then there were maybe 20 protesters from the other side that were very vocal and very sort of right up in the face of the agents that were standing there.
A lot of the vocalese that you heard from these people, there are some reports that say, quite frankly, it only starts when the cameras get started. Did you see that?
Yeah. One of the things I thought was the most interesting was the Brown Berets who were there, who of course believe that we should have completely open borders. They think that Mexico actually is entitled to own the United States and people should be able to flow as freely as they want. And one of the interesting things I noticed about the guys there in the Brown Berets, with the exception of one that I interviewed, is that they wouldn't talk to media and they had their faces covered with scarves. My opinion is that if you're there to protest, part of your legitimacy as a protester is being willing to actually show your face and put your name behind your protest. And I noticed instantly that they weren't really willing to do that.
There's a lot of people who will say that, again, they will point to this being a humanitarian crisis, and they will say that the most important thing is the kids that are involved here. You will hear a tremendous amount of critics saying that the kids have been traumatized by what is going on. They watch a lot of this. They hear what is being said about them. Do you get the feeling, after talking to the people there, that they are completely cold to this humanitarian need as some media outlets have painted them? Or indeed are the people there part of this, wondering that we should be able to take care of the humanitarian and take care of America at the same time?
No, I absolutely do not see any sort of incompassion, if you will, among the protesters there who feel like this is a humanitarian crisis. This is a humanitarian crisis for the Border Patrol, who are already contracting all sorts of diseases, including a disease, treatment-resistant strain of tuberculosis, including scabies, including some of the tropical diseases. I, in fact, interviewed a nurse on my own show, and she told me she's been a part of many of these imported diseases that are very often resistant to our Western medical practices. The things that we do to take care of those diseases likely will not work on all of these. So what about the legal immigrant children? What about the children who are here by birthright? What about legal citizens in the United States who are going to suffer tremendously because, frankly, we can't handle this? You can only be as humanitarian as any charity can tell you as your purse strings will afford. California is one of the most broke places in the entire country, the last place that needs to absorb hundreds of thousands of ill immigrants is California. It makes absolutely no sense.
Gina, were you able to see any evidence whatsoever of the scabies, the disease that we hear? There have been some reports, and there was certainly one that was on one of the cable networks that talked about how children were coming off buses or they were being treated, and you could see lice basically crawling on their face, and that was what they were using. But we're still having a problem actually getting real confirmation of any of this. So did you see evidence of this?
No, they drive the buses into a secured area behind Border Patrol, so they don't let media anywhere near the children, mostly for health purposes. The bus drivers, all of the Border Patrol, they all have on masks and they all have on gloves, and so that is pretty evidentiary that they are thinking that there's something pretty contagious going on. Many things very contagious. Also, the nurse that I interviewed said she had personally seen and confirmed medical records that of some of the cases of Border Patrol being infected already. And of course, the Border Patrol, let's not forget, they're not just guards. They go home to their families at night too, Ed. And so what's happening to their children? Are they having to be quarantined from their own families just so they can try to absorb this incredible injustice that this administration isn't taking care of right now?
We see the pictures, and a lot of times we see the different pictures where there are protesters standing in front of buses and they are blocking their way. However, isn't it fair to say that what is happening right now is simply the Border Patrol, the government is just going to wait these people out in Murrieta and say, look, you guys aren't going to be here forever, and we'll just take them someplace else. We'll go to another state, we'll go to another location, and you can have your protest, and it really isn't making that much of a difference as far as they are concerned.
You're absolutely right. This is exactly what they're doing. In fact, they went ahead and dropped that bus full at Chula Vista, which is another neighboring city right where I am. And so now, and these children are all quarantined for confirmed diseases. There are 40 of them. I can't say that they're all children, I'm sorry. These people are already confirmed to have some very communicable diseases, so that they are in full quarantine and they are in Chula Vista. So yes, they're just taking them to other parts of California. That's true. The folks of Murrieta are trying to make a stand and trying to encourage others to do the same and hope that they'll follow suit, because their blockades are working so far.
Is the bigger concern here, certainly from the people in Murrieta, and again, you've only had a chance to speak to a small group here, but that, and this is again what we hear from many people on the ground, that these are the folks who believe their communities are being overrun. They simply don't have the money. It is not a matter of we don't want to be able to help somebody, but where do we get the money? Why isn't the government helping us? Why should we be the ones that are overrun and the ones that have to pay for all of this? And I'm talking about paying financially, but also paying emotionally. Is that what you're getting from a lot of the folks here on the ground?
Well, I ran into one lady who had lost a child because one of the people who came here illegally, and the government obviously wasn't following up. Anyway, drunk driving and hit her car and killed her child. I've met many people who've endured hardships from this illegal crisis happening in our country. And so she's not alone. I know a lady who lost a brother. I know another lady who lost a child. So this is the voice of the people on the ground saying, look, we want to help people, but this isn't humanitarian for anyone. If they come here and they're not followed and they're let go, which you know is happening, they check them in basically and they turn them loose in the community, and on their honor, they're supposed to check back in. We all know that's probably not going to happen, especially if they're ill, and then we can't help anybody. You know, if we're all sick, we can't help anybody.
Have you seen any evidence of any of the refugees or the immigrants, however you want to put it here, being released into the recognizance or into the custody of others here in the community or outside of the community?
Oh, absolutely. I'm hearing from a lot of people on the ground that they've had different experiences with these folks. And I know that one of them heard a story about them being paid $5,000. The people who get them here safely are paid $5,000 per child. This is a kind of human trafficking, let's not forget.
That's the point I think that we're all missing here. Do you have people on the ground talking about this being nothing more than just an illegal trafficking operation that certain people are taking advantage of because of the policies of the United States?
It is, and this is a very lucrative job to have right now in some of these countries where they're taking massive advantage of these people to basically to get these people here. About 5,000 a person, as I said, is quite a lot of money, especially in a country like that. And so it's quite corrupt. And the reason, what no one can figure out here, unless you just think it's all Cloward Pivens, which I think is a pretty legitimate logic there, but what nobody can figure out is what is our United States government doing to protect people in this situation? Even just our border patrol, start with them, but even the people on the ground there, some of them were wearing masks because they were worried about being contaminated just being there at the border patrol station.
Can you tell me in 15 seconds one site that really made an impact on you?
I think it was the Brown Berets and how violent they were. They gave me misogynistic profanities the entire time I was trying to talk to them, and told me that maybe their heart wasn't 100% about compassion or humanitarian purposes, if you will.
Dr. Gina London from Politichicks and much more. Gina, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Please stay safe, and we will talk with you again soon.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, that is on the ground from Murrieta, California, where the protests still go on, and people are still wondering, many of them are still wondering where their government is in helping to make a difference and solve the situation. We'll return on Midpoint right here on the Newsmax TV network.
Excuse me. What do you think you'd pay for this smartphone?
A few hundred.
That's top of the line. More like $425.
More like $9.
That's not possible.
It is on DealDash.com. See, DealDash.com is the fair and honest bidding site. This top-of-the-line laptop went for around $40.
That can't be.
Incredible.
I know. Everyone says it's too good to be true.
But it's true. DealDash.com gets people real savings every day, big savings. And if you're not satisfied, you get your money back. On DealDash.com, professional cameras sell for as low as $15. $50 gift cards go for $20. Laptops can be had for less than $10. And shipping is always free. It's perfect for gifts or just everyday necessities. Visit DealDash.com today and start bidding.
Is this from Deal Dash?
Uh-huh.
How much?
You don't want to know.
DealDash.com. See how much you can save.
I've always seen No No on TV, and I always wondered if it worked. And it's definitely, I can see what everybody talks about now.
It's not a razor. It's not a laser. It's No No from Radiancy, the #1 hair removal system in the world.
It's absolutely no pain.
Can't believe the difference, Al. It's almost hair-free.
No No gives you no hair with no pain.
Well, I saw it on TV and they said it was painless, right? I didn't really believe it, but now that I'm trying it, it feels completely painless.
And now, No No is better than ever. Introducing the new No No Pro. It's up to 35% more powerful. Imagine never having to shave again.
I like a close shave. Absolutely. And this is better than that. I mean, it's gone.
No more facial hair. No more embarrassment.
I've always been self-conscious of my hairline, so putting my hair back, this will be perfect for me.
And for that man in your life, there's No No for him too.
It looks like just like you've got a fresh wax, but like you don't have to go through all the pain.
Call now and we'll send you the cordless No No Pro in your choice of colors. Featuring an LCD display, it comes with up to 5 treatment levels. Plus, we'll include everything you need to get rid of your unwanted hair. A set of Thermicon tips, specially designed for your face and body. A buffer pad to exfoliate and polish your skin. Plus, act now and we'll send you the No No travel case as a free gift. And get this, you can try No No risk-free for not 30 days, but 60 days with our triple guarantee. If you are not 100% satisfied, return it and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping, and even pay the return postage. Try No No risk-free today. I need to get myself one of these right now.
Absolutely.
For your 60-day trial, go to nonopro.com or call 1-800-934-5335. That's 1-800-934-5335.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Earlier today, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo confirmed the death of 4 people following yesterday's tornado. The tornado that ripped through Smithfield, New York, also caused damage and destruction to property. Reports say 4 people, including a 4-month-old and her mother, died.
Unfortunately, there is damage that has been done that no one can repair and no one can replace. Tragic loss of life in a wholly random event.
40,000 homes are still without power. National Weather Service will be sending survey crews to assess the damage. And we've been telling you about Obama's visit to Texas later today. But right now, lawmakers in Washington, D.C. are talking about the border crisis, including Senator Ron Johnson, who was on America's Forum earlier today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I come from manufacturing, so root cause analysis is just in my DNA. And Mr. Chairman, I think you asked the right question. How do we stop them?
I don't have a number for you, but they move within a matter of a few weeks to a few months.
We actually heard a lot of Senator Johnson's comments earlier when he spoke with J.D. Howard. To watch that interview, check out Newsmax TV on YouTube or newsmax.com. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to Ed at Midpoint.
Thank you very much. It is time once again to let you know what our sister shows are doing here. Of course, we have the show before us, J.D. Hayworth, America's Forum. And we always have, of course, what is happening with the Steve Malzberg show, of course, and that is at 3 o'clock. We like to do that every single day here. We're going to remind you a couple of things that were there. First of all, let's tell you that on the J.D. Hayworth, America's Forum show, a couple of things that you need to be paying attention to from their show yesterday. James Zogby, who was president of the Arab American Institute, was talking about the response to Harvard law professor and legal analyst Alan Dershowitz's idea that Israel wants peace as long as it comes paired with security. This, again, is something that everybody will talk about, and it is a constant part of the debate here. We are telling you here, as we hear things from Israel right now, there are more missiles that are being launched by both sides here, and I've actually been in touch with a couple of people on the ground in Israel, and they feel quite safe at this point, thanks to what they always point to as the Iron Dome, which is their missile protection system. But what they always are talking about is whose fault is it, who bears responsibility, who can actually stop the process at this time. And when it gets down to that argument constantly, it never fails that it will be those who will tell you absolutely Israel is to blame. There are those who will tell you that Palestine is to blame, that Hamas is to blame. But at the end of the day, there is always a discussion as who acts first and what needs to be done in order to bring things back to some sort of sanity at this point. It is the biggest problem. The President of the United States certainly has some responsibility in this because as we continue to hear from the President, and actually this week, there was a discussion as to his comments about Hamas, basically thanking Abbas from the Hamas organization for doing his part to basically try to bring things back and try to create some peace, when in essence you will talk to some people who are in Israel, who are in the Middle East, who will tell you that Mahmoud Abbas and Hamas will do nothing in order to bring forward peace. There are those who are wondering why, indeed, again, the president is not more forceful in talking about Benjamin Netanyahu and in his part of what is being done. There is this consistent argument that is going on, this consistent debate as to who is going to act first, who will stop shooting first, who may stop shooting first. Frankly, we're going to continue to hear this, and on the America's Forum show and on the Steve Malzberg show, you're going to continue to hear a lot of people who are going to talk about this. Now, I want to bring you up to speed also on something else, which they've been talking about on the Steve Malzberg show. Many of you may know Rick Unger. He is co-host of the Steele and Unger show on Sirius XM Radio, fills in from time to time for Steve. He also said that if it doesn't matter if President Obama visits the border while in Texas because he is in a no-win situation. And that seems to be the biggest thing that we are hearing from the White House. This comes down to that issue of bad optics, if you will, that the White House is talking about right now. What they're saying is that the president simply had absolutely nothing to be gained by going to Texas, by going to the border, because quite frankly, it wouldn't be good for him. It also would not be good for the country, they say. Quite frankly, we have talked about this back and forth. It is odd indeed that the president has plenty of time to go to Denver, Colorado, and this is something that even Democrats and Republicans should be paying attention to. This is not a partisan comment here, that the president of the United States takes time to go to Denver, Colorado. He is raising money. That is what this trip is for. And what he does is spend time mocking the Republicans and basically telling jokes. Look, it doesn't do anybody any good whether it comes from the left, the right, the midpoint. It makes no difference. It's the wrong thing to do at this time. There is a humanitarian crisis that needs to be dealt with here. And if that crisis is not dealt with, you can tell all the jokes that you want, but it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't take time. It doesn't take any effort whatsoever to simply go to the border, see what's happening there, show the people on the ground that you have their best interests at heart and their best interests in mind, instead of going to an event somewhere and simply just telling jokes. It does not do any good whatsoever. So it is something else that we will continue to follow as well. Now, it is Also, very salient to point out that in talking to Dr. Gina London, talking to others who are here today, they will tell you that on the ground in Murrieta, California, the people there are very concerned. These are the people who want answers, and they are not getting any answers from the government. They are also not getting answers because, quite frankly, a lot of what we are seeing is being, you don't want to use the word covered up in here. You want to believe, indeed, that the Border Patrol and the government there is being safe instead of being sorry by keeping people away from the kids whom they believe may have some sort of diseases or illnesses, if you will. They need to do something. They need to show the American people what is happening there. They need to be much more transparent. This is all the American people want, is they want their president, they want their lawmakers, they want the people involved to simply be transparent, tell them what's going on, show them what's going on, and I think that this argument would break just a little bit. However, we have to go back to the point. The president did not want to be at the border. He decided that it would not be good for him. We've said this before. We've talked about this. I've commented on this. It doesn't make a difference, again, what side of the issue that you're on or what side of politics that you're on. It simply is necessary for the President of the United States to show the leadership that he is charged with and let the people see what he is doing for them. Coming up next, could the car of the future be the most dangerous one on the road? It's next on Midpoint.
Looking for a home loan? Welcome to PennyMac, one of America's leading mortgage lenders, where all we do are home loans. PennyMac offers a neighborhood of home loan options. First-time buyers? Call PennyMac for some low down payment options as low as 3.5%. Looking for an FHA loan, jumbo loan, VA loan, or conventional loan? Call PennyMac. Want to refinance to save money? Yep, call PennyMac. Home underwater? PennyMac offers a government-sponsored HARP program that can help you reduce your interest rate. So if you're thinking home loans, PennyMac leads the pack with low rates week in and week out, so you know you're going to save money and get a fast closing. So call PennyMac now. We're probably helping some of your neighbors with their loans, and we're ready to help you too. Call the experts in home loans in the next 10 minutes to get a free $50 Home Depot gift card. Call 800-424-1956. 800-424-1956. 800-424-1956.
Are you feeling tired, run down, low on energy? Well, you could be just like millions of Americans whose thyroid gland isn't functioning the way it's supposed to. Well, now there's hope to change all of that. Introducing Actilin. Actilin is a premium nutritional supplement designed to support optimal thyroid function. Actilin has 17 powerful ingredients that support adrenal health, thyroid function, energy, and your immune system. Actilin was formulated by the renowned holistic practitioner, Dr. David Brownstein. And now, for a limited time, you can get a free bottle of Actilin with our special offer. You pay only for shipping and handling. Act right now and get Dr. Brownstein's free special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Thyroid. Get Actilin and the special report. Sign up today at getactilin.com. That's getactilin.com. Or call us at the number below.
Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? We choose to go to the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
More than 100,000 vehicles in North America for various safety defects. The largest of 6 separate recalls involves late models of the Ford Taurus, Lincoln MKS, and other sedans and crossovers. No injuries, accidents, or fires related to the defects have been reported.
All right, there's that and a whole lot more. Let's start out with this one story, if you will. This car emerged as the vehicle of the future, an electronic wonder. Yet now it may be the most dangerous car on the road. Add to that yet another recall. Mary Barra heading for another showdown. Pedal to the metal. Welcome in the nationally syndicated master of everything that is automotive, the car coach. Lauren Fix joins us from New York. Lauren, good to hear from you again.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, let's get right to it. We got a lot to cover here. Mary Barra is going to be back in front of the folks asking a lot of questions, but now it's Delphi Automotive that is also going to be here, because now they're finally getting down to the people who actually manufactured the switches that went defective. So what do you think is going to come out of this hearing?
I think Delphi is going to defend themselves. I mean, the fact is, they did say this switch does not meet specifications, and Ray DiGiorgio, who was the engineer on the switch, said, ship the ones that don't meet the specs. And so that's what they've been putting in since the early 2000s. And the bottom line is that we have manufactured parts that don't meet spec, and people have died. 13 deaths at least so far, and hundreds of accidents. And this is what led to this big nightmare. So Mary Barra will come back, let them know what she's doing. In addition, they're going to have the guy from Delphi, who's the CEO, and he's going to say, you know what? We're defending ourselves. We're here to show facts. Here's paperwork. We actually defended ourselves. And it doesn't look like Delphi was at fault. They built what they were told to build. If it was a concrete life preserver, they would have built it.
All right, now wait a minute. What you just said is interesting here. They built what they were told to build. So they're going to stand on the fact that we were given either incorrect, flawed information, flawed text, whatever it is, and that we simply gave it to you and you didn't bother to check it. Does that still mean that they're off the hook?
I think they might be off the hook, because what happened was, when you place an order for something and I tell you that you requested something that doesn't meet the standards that are required by the Department of Transportation or through the Society of Automotive Engineers, whatever it may be, and they said, no, this switch will be just fine. And we kind of recommend this switch because this variation is much safer. And they said, oh, just go ahead and ship those. That's on Ray DiGiorgio. And that's what the documentation shows. And this man has obviously been fired, but for years he covered it up, and for years he kept ordering the same part. And you know what? They just kept building that same part.
All right, here we go. Recall Central here on Pedal to the Metal every week. It seems we get a couple of new ones here. Let's start out with Ford. 6 recalls, 100,000 vehicles. Now it's the front axles that run to right wheels, and they may not have been properly installed during assembly. What is next? Can anybody get anything right at any of these manufacturers?
Well, obviously, when the people are involved, things can happen. But it sounds to me like the specifications weren't followed, and I think everyone's being super ultra careful these days. There's also a recall of 100,000 Hondas for those Tanaka airbags. I would rather, if I were a manufacturer, I'd say, you know what, let's recall it. Let's not take any risks. Let's bring all those specific cars in, because the fact is, you do not want to be the next GM. You do not want to be the next Toyota unintended acceleration. You don't want to be any of that. You want to just say, hey, listen, we're on the side of our consumers, and we want to make sure everybody's safe on the road. So you're seeing everyone being ultra careful, because the fines are unbelievable, and they do impact profits as well as stocks.
That's 12 million airbags, I think, by last count from Takata. That's 11 million vehicle recalls. The list is growing. Now it's 12 million, of course, thanks to the Honda recall here. When are we going to start seeing the legal action here? Because you've got to believe that Honda, Ford, all these people are going to start going after Takata and the other manufacturers.
Right. Now, Takata was mostly the Japanese manufacturers. Those airbags were built here in the U.S., but they were stored improperly in a warehouse that had moisture, which could obviously have that discharge unit react and go off. The worst part about the reaction of the airbag is the metal framing that holds it in could actually be shrapnel, and some people have been badly hurt. That will obviously lead to lawsuits. But let's be honest, you're not going to hear the results of those, because those are deals that you're going to see just like, you know, with Kenneth Feinberg and everybody else. Oh, no, we'll sign it out of court, give these people money, let them be on their way, let's keep it out of the press. And usually there's a hush involved in those contracts as well.
All right, let's get down to Tesla Motors right now. The shares of Tesla Motors are down. A terrible crash, a stolen Model S in Los Angeles that simply split apart. All right, there was a crash involved here. There was an impact involved. But what's the concern now over Tesla, because these batteries have caught fire before? This is no longer an isolated incident.
Absolutely. Now, there are two things that I look at this as Tesla, is they have a chance to really shine and say, hey, we are here, we are making a safe vehicle, or they can drop the ball. And it all depends what the next couple days brings us. This car was stolen on July 4th weekend from a dealer. So it was a car that had the titanium plate put underneath that was put in post the last fires. So this vehicle was stolen going 100 miles an hour, which many vehicles can do. Actually, probably every vehicle on the road, even a smart car can do that. Hit a Honda Civic and split into two. Now that was after hitting something obviously solid like a telephone pole. Half the car is fine, the half with the battery actually caught fire. So this is a real serious situation. If this is the final results of everybody's trying to sweep it under the rug. It's going to put a huge impact on Tesla, and they could go the way of Fisker. If they're smart, they're going to do something really wise and really break this down and let all of us know what happened, why it happened, and how they're fixing it. Because the fact is, anyone that owns a Tesla should have a bit of concern, and anyone that owns a stock that's there saying no matter what, we're going to stand behind Tesla, we don't care what they do. Well, you don't want to get hurt in that market because it's already an overinflated stock, and a lot of stock market experts have already said it's not a buy. So this is also to be noted that Tesla had another accident on July 4th weekend. It hit the back of a Camry doing the regular speed limit. 2 children died. And there's been no mention of it on any of the national news networks. And because a Tesla hit a Camry, it's not the fault of the Camry. We don't know exactly what happened, but it's all been hush-hush, which I don't like because when you start hiding things, there's reasons for it.
30 seconds in your opinion and the opinion of those in the automotive industry, is Tesla doing everything it can to make sure these vehicles are safe again, or are they just dragging their feet?
We haven't heard much other than their PR agency saying, we're going to investigate, we're going to get access to those vehicles, and we're going to let you know. To me, there's so many promises from Tesla that haven't come true. The battery switching, the low price vehicle, the fact they're going to sell these cars in China and the sales have not been there. And they also have a lawsuit going on in China. I think we may have to watch Tesla a little bit closer to see what their future holds.
We will indeed watch the future. We'll watch it here. And again, the future for everybody who wants to find out what the coach is saying. It's easy, it's very easy for the car coach, LaurenFix.com, and she joins us every week right here on Midpoint. Lauren, always a pleasure. Keep well in New York City. We'll talk to you next week. And please, let's see if we can get away with at least talking about something that doesn't include the recall word, okay? We'll try.
I will try.
All right, Lauren, thanks so much. Take care. All right, Lauren Fix, the car coach, LaurenFix.com. By the way, Tesla stock was down almost 3%, still selling at $223 a share. But still, Tesla has an awful lot to answer for because, quite frankly, these lithium-ion batteries are just not getting the job done, and they catch on fire, which is not good. What is good is we've got a little more to go right here on Midpoint on the Newsmax TV network, where every day we question everything.